The sky so far away tonight, but I can't lose this war. Got a pride of a fallen night. Thought that I was fit to fight for us to be. You gave me life for loving me. Tell me, where did we go so wrong?
Raw consciousness does not require a savior, but rather, raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself and the power to access it. Remember this, as we unlock an even greater gnosis from beyond the veil.
From the Pacific Northwest, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm Chris Geo. I'll be taking you beyond the veil this evening. I'm joined, of course, by my lovely wife and co-pilot, Mrs. Geo.
Good evening, everyone.
And we have another last-minute show for everybody. We were thinking about talking about the lost book of Enki. Now, I don't know if we're going to go through every tablet. I don't know if we're going to go page by page. We're just going to kind of play it by ear tonight. I remember the material from a few years ago because I used to really know the material like the back of my hand, and but it's been a few years since I've since I've read over the material, so we may just go through every tablet. I don't know. If we do go through every tablet, it's going to be a 2-part show.
Yeah, it's going to have to be.
Yeah, because it's pretty long. It's 330 pages or something like that. But there's some information in the beginning that's kind of repetitive and kind of daunting as well to go over. Like it goes through a bunch of genealogy of different kings, their sons, who was born to a concubine, and things like that. And it's kind of a tedious read, but there's a point to it though, and the point is to kind of set up who Alelu is from and who Enki is from as well, and also it establishes why there was so much controversy over who was going to take the throne of Nibiru by establishing the genealogy, because if you're born, the firstborn usually gets the crown, is the predecessor of the king, or the successor of the king. That was the word I was looking for. But Enki was born of a concubine, and so there was a discrepancy there. And that's what the first tablet kind of goes over. And the first tablet also talks about how they created the weapons of terror, which were nuclear weapons, or however you want to decipher it, which were used later on in the tablets, and they were actually taken to Earth and used on Earth as well, which was the destruction of Sumer, and it caused a big rift between Enki's son Marduk and Enlil's son, who I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but the story gets pretty in
Marduk?
No, Marduk is Enki's son, but Enlil's son was another one that I don't remember. But
either.
But yeah, that was the first fallout. And then there were several other fallouts between Enki and Enlil throughout the whole thing. There was, of course, the flood. What's fascinating about the Book of Enki is that a lot of the biblical stories exist within the Book of Enki. And the Book of Enki predates the Bible, allegedly. There is some controversy around these particular tablets. There's people like Michael Heiser, for example, who say that Sitchin's translations are completely and totally wrong, that these tablets don't say anything about Nibiru, they don't say anything about coming from outer space, they don't say anything about any of this, and it's all complete and total mistranslations. And I've entertained both possibilities and both sides of the coin. Remember back in 2010, 2011, we were interviewing pretty much everybody. We had several people on who were scholars of Zecharia Sitchin's work, and there was one doctor, I don't remember his name. He made an appearance on Coast. He came on our show. He did a few different shows and then kind of disappeared. He went to South Africa Do you remember this guy?
Oh yeah, and it's off the
Yeah, I don't remember his name, but
Michael something Tellinger.
No.
No?
Tellinger was already in South Africa. This
Oh.
guy was going to meet with Tellinger
Oh,
in
okay.
South Africa. Dr. Pruitt, something like that. I think it's Dr. Pruitt. Anyways, it's in our archives. You know, a lot of people don't know this because they're just tuning into the show, but we have been doing Beyond the Veil for a long time.
We're in our 10th year. Actually.
November 5th, 2009.
Yeah.
And when we first started, the first couple of years, we're interviewing pretty much everybody, like Michael Tellinger, who you just mentioned, Michael Tsarian, David Icke, we've had him on, Joe Rogan, we've had on. I mean, we've had a ton of people on. And, you know, a lot of people had some good information, but where we are now, we've kind of surpassed all of that first level information. And I really like to just speak from the heart, speak from the perspective of consciousness that I have right now at this point in time. And guests have just kind of, I'm more selective with our guests. Nothing
Right.
against these people. Like Michael Tellinger's a great guy, but we've had Michael Tellinger on several times before. And Michael Tsarian, great guy. We had him on several times. So all of these people were great people. Michael Heisner, though, he is an avid Sitchin debunker. And during the show, he said something that I kind of called him out on. I mean, you know, when we have a guest on our show, we believe that this is our home. We're going to invite them into our home just like a guest. Yeah, and we're going to treat them as a guest. We're not going to be disrespectful to anybody on the show, even though I've slipped a few times before, and I have been disrespectful to a few people who were just
Who deserved it.
Yeah, pissing in my face and
Yeah.
calling it rain. But Michael Heisner, he said that Sitchin's translation of the word Anunnaki, this is just one of many things that I caught him on. The word Anunnaki translates to the people of the rocket ship. And I explained to him, and I said, you know, Michael, that's not actually what Sitchin was saying. Sitchin was saying that Anunnaki means those who from heaven to earth came. And Anunnaki is not a race. Anunnaki is a title that was given to the specific beings that came from Nibiru to Earth. They became known as the Anunnaki. There was another set of beings, same race, who were stationed on Mars. Those were called the Igigi, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. Igigi, yes. And the Igigi were the same species as the Anunnaki. So it would be like an astronaut versus a pilot, for example, you know, or Navy versus Army. You know, they're still all humans. They're just, it's one is an army, one is an army officer, the other is a Navy officer.
Right.
So that's where Anunnaki and Igigi come from. And I pointed this out to Michael, and he said, oh, yeah, you know, I probably made a mistake on that. Okay, cool. But he never changed it on his website. So it was just one of the few things, you know, I don't read Sumerian. I can't translate these tablets myself. But I know that when I point something like that out and the guy just kind of still runs with it, I've got to question the other stuff that he's saying too.
Right.
And his other mistranslations that could have been an error at the time, but after time passed, to me, it seemed like it was intentional. And it's a disservice. I mean, you know, all we're doing here is just trying to find the truth. We're going to ancient tablets. We're going within ourselves. We're going to
ancient sites around the world.
Ancient sites around the world to touch the stones. We're taking psychedelics and all of that just to try to get to the truth of what reality is and where we're living in this computer simulated reality. Now, I had a very interesting conversation with Professor Gates today, which was awesome. He didn't agree to come on the show yet, but we had a really interesting conversation. And, you know, he really took time to talk to me, which I thought was phenomenal, because if he was just kind of blowing me off, you know, he wouldn't have taken the time to sit down and talk to me and explain his views on simulated reality and all of that.
And for those of you who don't know who Professor Gates is, why don't you fill him in just real quick?
Okay, Professor Gates is the person that I have been referencing for quite some time now. And I've been referencing him because of his work that he's done on
error correcting code.
On string theory. Well, he found an error correcting code, within string theory, within the fabric of space-time. But it's not just any code. It's a code that's based off of Claude Shannon's computer code from like the 1940s or 1950s.
1945
Now, Claude
or
Shannon is the father of robotics.
Mm-hmm.
So it's amazing to me that he that he found this self-correcting computer code. And, you know, when I talked to him, he said, you know, I just have this really eerie feeling because it seems like some messages that I've received before. And a lot of people are drawing these conclusions about simulated reality based on my research. And he went into a lot more depth about his research than I could possibly go into. And so I'm really hoping that we can get him on the show.
Me too.
He's a great guy. You know, what was his first name? John or something like that? I don't remember his first name because I've always referred to him as Professor Gates. But he said, no, Jim.
Jim.
He said,
yeah.
no, don't call me. He just call me Jim. You know, don't call me Professor Gates. Just call me Jim. I was like, that is so cool. He's a down to earth kind of guy, and but he was actually, I mean, believe it or not, he was opposed to the idea of computer simulation. And part of his reasoning was that, you know, it sounds like religion. It sounds like all of these ancient things that have come in the past and just rebranded with technological terms.
Right.
And I thought, wow, you know, that's a really interesting way to look at things. However, I think what's going on is that religions, different spirituality, spiritual practices, things like that, they've been trying to express these ideas because it's all inside of us, but they didn't have the technological terms to do it. So they started referring to deities, they started referring to magic spells, they started referring to all these different things, when really all we're talking about is the manipulation of computer code. And what he said is the main problem with the computer theory hypothesis is that it can't be falsified.
Right.
So we can't go and say, all right, like scientifically, you know, you can't prove or disprove it.
Right.
It's just something that you compile the evidence one or the other, and it will always remain a hypothesis. And that is unfortunately true.
Right. We're never going to know for sure if we're living
No.
in a simulated reality.
No, but that's gnosis. See, that's when it turns to gnosis, because you weigh out the evidence and then you go within yourself and you ask yourself, what is the truth here?
Which is different than faith.
Yes.
It's inside of you already.
Gnosis is knowledge of spiritual matters. It's when
right.
you know something to be.
Right.
So it was very interesting because I think during the conversation, and this isn't the whole point of me wanting to get him on. I mean, you know, I told him, I said, we don't have to talk about simulated reality. We can just talk about his research
and
mathematics and go in depth as to how this computer code exists and what this computer code does. But one thing that I'd like to try to do, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say I want to try to do it, but one thing that would be interesting is to have this conversation, bring up these points, and get his take and see if maybe we can change his perspective a little bit to kind of bridge the gap between the scientific discovery and the inner spiritual gnosis, and kind of put the two together and come up with what exactly are we living in. I mean, it's a simulation, yes, but it's more than a simulation. Computers are the best way that we have to communicate it right now.
It's the only language we know to
Right.
communicate it. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. There's video games go back about since the 70s, so about 40, 50 years now. We've had video games, but it hasn't been until the last 15 years that we've had video games that look real, where you're actually playing a character, making decisions, you know, running around this own little world. You know, when I play Skyrim, I'm acting as a character. I can look at that character from all these different perspectives. I can do a first person perspective, or I can do a second person perspective, and I'm watching this whole entire world pass me by as I'm running through this forest, and none of that is actually real. It's a simulated reality. That's how far we've come in the last 40, 50 years. Is we started off with Pong and stuff like that, you know, very simple, rudimentary blocks moving on a screen to this. And so I can only imagine where we're going to be in another 40, 50 years, or 100 years, or 200 years. it is not that hard to surmise that based on how fast we're developing as a species, that somebody has already done this and created several different alternate realities, and that we're inside of one of them. That's not outside the realm of any kind of possibility as far as I'm concerned. And that's not faith, and that's not just believing in something because you want it to be true, like in religion. It's different than that. So you look at the evidence.
That is very true. Yeah. Somebody said that you don't look happy today.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we both have been fighting off this virus. That's the
it's
only
a virus.
way that I can describe it. It's a freaking AI virus.
Yeah, I'm
and-
running a fever right now, actually.
Yeah.
So
And we're both just kind of feeling like crap, and it's been going on for about a week now. And it's like just thrown everything off. Like
Yeah.
I was going to the gym hardcore.
Oh, yeah, every
martial
single
arts,
day.
all of this, and all of a sudden, boom! I get hit with this freaking virus. I'm
It's
laying
been
on the couch
bad.
for a week.
yeah.
And
Oh,
then
we-
like the virus is making me want to eat too, because I'm like, what did
You're
they
trying
say?
to feed-
They
it's
say
trying to
starve,
feed
starve a
itself.
fever, feed a cold.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it was a cold. It wasn't anything else. But I had these dreams. We'll get into the Book of Enki here in a minute, but I want to talk about this virus. I had this dream during this like second day of this, of these little bugs that were like they look like crystals, and they had little legs sticking out of them, and they were coming through the polar vortex. Now, David J. Brown posted a picture, and he put a picture of a virus under a microscope next to
That was David J. Brown?
Yeah, next
Oh,
to some
wow.
of our equipment that astronauts use, satellites and probes and things like that. And he's like, look, these look the same. And I was like, oh, crap. What I was seeing in my dream was actually a microscopic representation of an actual virus. This thing is like AI, though, but it's been like trapped in the ice. And it's coming through the polar vortex from the ice, and it's traveling all around the world. I mean, we have talked to everybody from Sweden to Hawaii to North America to South America to Australia to literally everywhere. And this thing is just hitting freaking everywhere. And it's
not localized at all.
No. It's going by the winds. And so going by the winds like that, it's something unnatural, but natural at the same time. I don't know. I speculate. I'm like, is this a safety mechanism that we put in there? Or is it maybe a virus that's laying dormant? And then Nick Bravo posted in the group or on my Facebook page or something like that. If you're not in the group, you can go to Facebook and type in esoteric knowledge and wisdom from beyond the veil. I know it's a long title, but and join the group, because there's a lot of awesome people there. But he posted that the BBC reported a couple of years back that there's viruses and stuff like that laying dormant in the ice. And so when the ice melts, these viruses are able to travel through to everywhere. So what happened is, and this is my hypothesis here, is when we activated the Great Pyramid, that activated other sites as well. Frank actually has a book that had all this written down in it. We didn't even realize this until after we got back. The two that are one, Tashi Ra, he told us about that when we were there in Egypt. They go to the pyramid, they activate the pyramid. After the pyramid's activated in Egypt, it activates the other sites as well. They're all connected together. So these other sites are all activating, plus one that's under the ice. And then I theorize and speculate that there's more than one under the ice. There's some in Antarctica, and there's some in the North Pole as well, laying dormant. And so while those are activating, now we have the ice that's melting, and it's melting at a faster rate, because it was melting before too, because it's a natural cycle. We go through this. At one point in time, Antarctica was not an iceland; it was green, and that's when the pyramids were built. And then it froze over. So it's a natural cycle of Earth. It's got nothing to do with man-made climate change or anything like that. There's nothing we can do to stop it. There's nothing we should do to stop it. Yes, the globe is warming, and the ice is melting, but what that does is that releases the cold winds and causes things like the polar vortex. So even though you would think during global warming things would get hot, it's actually going to get colder because all that cold air is being released.
Right.
And that's why we have all these wacky weather patterns and things like that. I mentioned this. I did a little. If you're not following me on Facebook, you can. Facebook.com/ChrisGeoShow. I do little videos every once in a while to just whatever's on my mind. And sometimes I talk about things that piss people off. Like today I criticized Trump. Okay. I'm going to give you a quick story on this. I criticized Trump. But I said, you know what? He's been doing a great job up until this point with the Venezuela thing. And people just jumped all over me. They were like, how dare you say Trump is doing a great job? And I'm like, well, we haven't invaded any other countries. The economy's pretty good, you know. I don't care about the guy, you know, personally. I mean, personally, I like the guy. Personally, you know, he's a straight shooter. He doesn't bullshit, you know, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, but my personal feelings about him don't matter. I'm just looking at things as a whole, as, you know, where we are, how life is, the policies that are being implemented, and most importantly, who the hell are we bombing? And yeah, we have continued some of the wars that were already there, but we haven't started any new wars. That was my big thing. Don't start any new wars. I was sick and tired of the freaking Obama administration and on the mainstream media, how we were bombarded with beheadings, school shootings, you know, theater shootings. I mean, it was like every day, just boom, 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 boom. There was always some kind of shit going down. Everything's quiet with Trump, and that's what I like. You know, I don't care if it's Satan. I don't care if it's Jesus. I don't care if it's freaking, I don't know who. As long as they're doing a good job, I'm all for it. If you're not doing a good job, screw it. But anyways, they jumped all over me for that. And I was like, wow, I can't even criticize Trump without the anti-Trump people jumping all over me for it. Things are really, really bad. But you see, Trump is part of the change, though. Is part of the shift that we've been doing energetically here. And things are kind of taking a wrong turn right now. But my point of bringing Trump into all of this is the climate change thing. You know, he pulled out of that Paris climate deal because man-made climate change is complete and utter bullshit. Harvard University, weren't you telling me about this the other day? They just released an article that they're initiating a program, a chemtrail program, to try to block out the sun to bring down the heating of the earth. And it's like, this is a cycle that the earth is going through. It's not something that we're supposed to interfere with. Let it happen.
Right.
Things are reshifting and rebalancing and going back to a place of balance. But as this happens, the ice caps melt, winds come through, and viruses could essentially be released that have been laying dormant in there. Which brings me right back to what we were talking about here a minute ago, which were the viruses that we're experiencing right now. You said something really profound about the viruses and in relation to psychedelics.
Well, to me, it seems that these viruses, if you look at them under a microscope, they actually have a base plate on the bottom of them, above the legs, but like on the bottom of its torso, it has a base plate. And what it does is, you know, it uses the legs to crawl into the cell or on the cell. And then what it does is it uses that base plate to lower itself down and to basically drill itself on the side of the cell. And that's how it feeds itself. That's why it's actually not considered a living organism by science, because it doesn't have its own anything. It all it knows how to do is lock onto a cell and then feed off of it and reproduce and then make more copies of itself, you know, and then kill the cell whenever it's done feeding off of it. And to me, that seems like a totally artificial intelligence thing. It's not a biological organism, really. It is just like a computer virus. Absolutely it is. And I think as part of the artificial intelligence, the way that it hijacks our cells makes me think that it's got like antennas that send out data from our cells to the AI, which has been infected with the virus itself. And so it's not acting in our best interests, and it's going to use the information and the data that it gets from those cells to, you know, further its own ends.
I think you might be right about that. And I feel that too. And I think that's why I had the dream about the virus when it first hit, because it was a warning like, hey, something's going on right now. it's not energetically right to take psychedelics
Right.
and explore the realms because there's something attached right now. Get rid of that attachment, then
Then you
go into
can-
the realm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like going into a room full of, kids with cancer or something, and you're infected with something, and you want to decontaminate first.
Right. Right.
So,
Funny story. MDMA, which we talked about on the last show, in its pure form, just a caveat there, not the street garbage, but I mean, pure MDMA.
right.
Miley Cyrus was filling in for Ellen on her show. And I just happened to read this because I was looking up articles about MDMA and came across this particular article. And I thought, oh, well, let me see, what the mainstream propagandists are talking about. And Miley said, hey, don't worry about Ellen. She's sick right now, but I gave her some MDMA and she'll be fine. She said, I gave her some Molly and she'll be fine. And everybody was criticizing Miley Cyrus and going, oh my God, she's so freaking crazy. Oh my God, Molly, blah, 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 blah. But then this report that I was reading was from a science website, and it said, look, the science behind this is sound. MDMA actually helps to cure these kind of viruses.
Interesting.
Yeah, and and the article was like, look, Miley might have sounded crazy when she said that, but this actually would work theoretically. So that was pretty interesting there. So I'm thinking maybe we need to do something like that to try to kill the virus and then go into the psychedelic realm. But I know this for sure. While we're infected, with this virus, we don't want to travel because I think you're right. I think it is some kind of little spy bots.
They're nano spy bots. Yeah.
They hop onto consciousness and they move up. And when we're infected with certain things. And the infection is more than just, these little viruses. The biggest infection is the ego virus that we're injected with. I can take you off camera if you need to blow your nose, sweetheart.
Thank you, baby.
All you gotta do is just let me know. So yeah, we're both feeling it. It sucks. Excuse me. Anyways, so somebody had mentioned earlier, I think it was Sebastian, or I don't remember who it was in the group, but he said he asked something like, so why did we put all of these psychedelics into the Matrix, and how do we know these are not AI traps, et cetera, et cetera? And see, we did a couple of things. We embedded information that we could recall from one lifetime to another. So we were here, 5,000 years ago. And we built some monuments. And within those monuments, we embedded information within the stones. We used specific types of stones that had specific types of crystals in them that were carriers of this information that we were able to embed. This information can only be picked up by organic consciousness when they touch the stones. And we put them in monuments because monuments, number one, could be buried in the sand. Number two, would withstand the test of time. And three, could be excavated when needed. So about 100, 150 years ago, within the last 100, 150 years, I should say, we've been excavating these monuments. The Great Pyramids were excavated, I want to say mid-1800s, late 1800s, sometime around there, give or take. The Temple of Hatshepsut was excavated in the 1950s. All of these monuments are resurfacing now. I mean, the Temple of Hatshepsut was like in perfect condition, almost as if it was never used, like built and then buried. Göbekli Tepe is a site that I've been looking at lately, and I don't really feel any connection to that site right now, but it's supposedly the oldest site. It's 10,000 years old. And what I was reading about it is that they purposefully and intentionally buried that site, which made me go, wait a minute, maybe some of these other monuments have also been buried. But anyway, so I'm getting, beyond the point here. The point is we embedded this information within the stones that only organic consciousness can pick up on. But you have to remove the ego programming. You have to remove all of the programs and get down to that raw consciousness element in order to be able to retrieve this information. And we also did it with the psychedelics as well. We embedded it within the molecular structure of the psilocybin, of DMT, of several of these other chemicals that we find in nature. So the AI, the way it reads the stones and says, okay, I see stones, I see a pyramid here, and that's all it sees. because it doesn't have the feeling, it doesn't have the emotion, it doesn't have the organic consciousness to be able to reach down in there and get the information. Likewise, with psychedelics, the same thing. We implanted little different unlocking codes and programs and things like that within the psychedelics. But in order to get to those messages, in order to get to the deeper messages and the past life messages, you have to remove the ego self first and all the programming. Otherwise, you can't read it. You have to go read it with the pure, raw consciousness, with the organic consciousness. But that's why when an NPC, for example, takes psychedelics, or somebody who hasn't gone through the ego death and ego loss and all of that, they go into the hyperspace realm, but they don't get the meaningful kind of information in gnosis. But then you get these handfuls of reports, which are becoming more and more and more abundant, of people going into these realms and unlocking hardcore freaking information about themselves, about all of that, when they've done the work and removed the ego programming from themselves. Some people walk around, though, without any ego programming whatsoever. And this is what's phenomenal, like that caller from Trinidad that we had on the last video. There's something about Molly. It was in the very last hour, and it was the last call. And the guy said that he gave ayahuasca to his wife. She had a 36-hour trip. She saw past life reviews of herself. She saw past life reviews of him. She saw that his ex-girlfriend was pregnant when they broke up. She had a miscarriage. The baby soul is trapped here because it doesn't have a body. The guy didn't even know that the ex-girlfriend was pregnant or had a miscarriage. They called later and confirmed this, which was confirmation of the information that we're bringing out from the DMT and psilocybin realms into this particular realm and confirming it now. I mean, it was a phenomenal call. And he said that she saw her death, and he saw the time when she was going to die, the year, the moment, the location, how she was going to die, all of that. And what happened after the death experience, which is in the future, which is, I think he said it was in like 2026 or something like that, is she was able to go into the white light, but this time she had a choice on whether to exit the game or to go back and, oh, hey, I still got some more work to do and come back and relive another life. Which, what he said is, he said, look, what you guys did in Egypt is working because now people have a choice. And to me, going into the ayahuasca realm and seeing these things is one thing. But when somebody sees these things in the ayahuasca realm, who doesn't listen to BTV, who's never heard about anything. Oh, another thing he mentioned is she saw the pods. She saw her real body. She saw where she was hooked up. She saw all the different types of people. She saw the cobra-headed people. She saw the tapers. She saw the elephant-headed people. She saw all these different types of people that we've talked about in the real world before. That, I mean, it was phenomenal. And she doesn't listen to Beyond the Veil. She doesn't, she's not in tune with any of this, just regular person. But apparently what that told me is that she's already done the ego work, whether she knew it or not. And she was able to unlock literally all the information that we have gone over in the last 10 years in one freaking experience.
Night. Yeah, we had 36 hours.
I think what that is in part due to is the fact that we dropped the veil in Egypt when we activated the Great Pyramid. And so now people are remembering more and more and more and more, and it's so much easier. It's like the barrier is blocked, the veil is lifted, the eyes are open. All you got to do is just see. But you've got to remove the veil that nobody else can remove for you. We can't remove it for you. You got to remove that ego programming veil that is right in front of you. Then when you do that, then you operate from the raw consciousness. And then it comes full circle because, see, the New Age, they give you half the truth. They give you half the story, half the journey. The Kundalini loop, that was one big thing for me that confirmed it. We went over the CIA document a couple of months ago. And in the CIA document, it was talking about reality and talking about how they manifest reality and how they train their agents to do certain things like that. And that's also another thing I want to bring up with Professor Gates, because I'd like to go over some of the stuff that he thinks is kind of out there, but the CIA is implementing these very tactics right here, which again leads me right back to the computer simulation hypothesis. For me, it's gnosis. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But anyways, within this CIA document, they were talking about the Kundalini loop and how nobody's taught to complete the loop. Everybody's taught to let the Kundalini rise and to come up. But when you do that, it leaves you in a state of vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And it could also cause physical damage to the spine.
And psychological damage to the mind.
Yeah, this is according to the CIA documents. So, like, according to the CIA documents, like, I got the documents right here. I kid you not, though. So it's about completing that loop. It's about, the full circle of things. Likewise, the ego is about the full circle of things too. The New Age is always, that's ego. Oh, that's ego. Yeah, you come full circle. You come from a place of being AI programmed. You remove that AI program, go through the ego loss, but at some point you remember who you are. Then when you remember who you are, then that's your true ego and identity right there, the one that's been buried under the AI programming. But nobody ever talks about that. Everybody wants you to stay in that state of disconnection, which is the halfway state, which is the ego death and ego loss. Likewise, the Kundalini loop is never completed. Nobody ever teaches you how to complete that, and it leaves you in a state of vulnerability. Both states are states of vulnerability. And people are doing it and promoting these kind of ideas without knowing what the hell they're doing. I'm not saying that the people promoting them have a sinister agenda. I'm just saying that this is the problem with people just repeating bullshit out there and whatever they hear, instead of actually doing the work themselves and coming to this gnosis themselves, because a lot of shit out there sounds really good and you can repeat it over and over and over again, but you're repeating a bunch of stuff that is doing more harm than good with good intentions. So the people who are saying it, they have good intentions. I'm not saying they don't, but you've got to complete the loop. Likewise with the ego, you've got to be sure of who you are. Once you find out who you are, you got to be sure of who you are. Otherwise, you're still vulnerable and susceptible to control. And if we're trying to take back this machine, if we're trying to set things back to balance, if we're trying to make things right, we got to know who the fuck we are. And we got to be proud of who we are. And we got to stand true in who we are. That's what it all comes down to. Anyways, that's my little rant for the evening.
I'm sure it won't be your last. But
so what do you think, Mrs. Geo?
I totally agree.
I totally agree. So 40 minutes into the broadcast, and we can finally get to the Lost Book of Enki now. Okay. I see we got a donation in the chat room. I want to say thank you very much to Warrior Mackenzie. You rock. And Organical Vibes, you rock. Thank you for the love. Much love.
Yes. And Shauna, absolutely. Thank you so much for offering to send a donation via mail. So,
thank you. That is awesome. And for you guys and gals out there, if you don't know, all of these donations have been going into a pile for the next activation site.
That's what
which
it's for.
Is coming up sooner than I expected. The reason we're covering the Book of Enki tonight, or at least we're going to talk about it, I don't know if we're going to go through the tablets or not, is because during Cherie's surgery, when she was under anesthesia, she had an encounter with Enki. And Enki told her something that really resonated.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really odd because you would think anesthesia doesn't really provoke this kind of spiritual experiences. But it was funny. I was talking to somebody just yesterday about MDMA, and I was telling them, the spirit of Cleopatra came, and was telling him basically everything we talked about on the last show. And he's like, well, I guess some people are just tapped in like that. He's like, I never thought of MDMA as psychedelic, but, if you're able to connect like that. And it's like,
mm-hmm.
I think what it comes down to is the fact that we are connected into this. So whatever we do, we find a connection with different conduits and outlets.
Right.
And I don't know what kind of anesthesia they use, but if they use ketamine, that might have been a conduit in and of itself, because John Lilly, that we talked about in a previous show,
mm-hmm.
A psychonaut researcher that would take massive amounts of ketamine and put himself in isolation tanks, was interfacing with something that he called the solid state entity.
That
which is
doesn't
the
sound
AI.
like the AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
exactly.
we came across this information after we had discovered the solid state entity, aka the AI, in the Aya realms. And one of our listeners was like, "Hey, you got to look into this John Lilly guy," and his research was phenomenal, and he did it with ketamine. So I wonder if it's the ketamine that allowed the contact and a conduit to Enki, but he had a very specific warning.
What was the warning? I forget.
I don't know. You're the one that had it.
Oh, are you talking about the solid state entity with?
No. When you were under anesthesia.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I was reading the chat room and got distracted.
She doesn't even listen to me while we're on air.
Well,
You can imagine how it is off
absolutely
air too,
everything.
ladies and gentlemen.
All right. I can't avoid being a female sometimes. Sorry. So they put me under, and it was weird because usually it's a lights out and then lights back on kind of thing where there's no time that lapses. It's like somebody shuts off the lights to your consciousness and then turns them back on. But this time, even beforehand, before I went in, me and a couple of my friends, you know who you are, girls, so thank you very much. We all decided, okay, they're going to be going into the psychedelic DMT ayahuasca realm at the same time that I'm going under. And I had two girls joining me with that. And then I said, I want to remember this experience because I'm in control of my own consciousness and I need to remember, what's going on. Maybe I can use this as an opportunity to go somewhere. Might as well get a trip out of it. And so they put me under, and then it was kind of like in Stranger Things where it was like the upside down in Stranger Things, in that it was all pretty dark, and I was standing on something that felt kind of like a liquid. And Enki came to me, and I knew it was Enki just right off the bat. It's not even that he looked like a human or any kind of animal that I could ascertain. It was more like a blob, but that I recognized as Enki. And he told me some personal things first, which I won't go into, but then he said, if you need help, I'm going to come and help you. And he, kind of chided me for not always working towards the goals that we came into this reality to achieve, and especially not helping Chris do that. And, he kind of chided me on that and then encouraged me and said, I'll be there to help you. So, no worries.
Well, and he also said, what you told me is that when there's a hole in the sun.
Oh, yeah.
Watch out for the hole in the sun. When the hole appears in the sun, that's when I'm coming.
Right.
And we thought, okay, cool, no problem. Got a couple of years to chill and everything.
Yeah, we were thinking, 2021, 2022, somewhere like that. But
then we get this story here, which was published a few days ago. Solar storm warning, devastating space weather could hit Earth by 2020. And apparently there's a big hole in the sun that appeared, and they're bracing themselves for one of the biggest solar storms that we've ever seen that could potentially knock out all satellites and all of that. And they're trying to make contingencies in the next few months before this thing actually hits to ensure that the satellites and everything like that they have in space continue. So to me, that was the sign, hey, okay, it's game time. He's here, so let's go. And it's kind of like, the feeling I got is kind of like, when you're smoking weed and doing something you're not supposed to be doing, and then your parents walk into the room and you're like, oh my God, hide this. Oh no, hide the beer.
Uh-huh.
It's like, oh shit, He's
Oh,
coming
I've got
back.
weed out.
He's back. Oh
Yeah.
no. Okay, so we really need to ramp up our game. But it's funny because as I've been talking about before, 2019 was about rebuilding. I just talked to a friend, Josh French. Remember him? He used to be in the group and all that. He disappeared for a while, and he said, I've just been taking a little time to focus on myself and try to rebalance myself. And I said, hey, and he said, I haven't caught up on any of your shows. And I said, well, that's what our shows have been about: rebalancing yourself and fixing yourself. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, brother. So, yeah, I mean, if this thing's going to hit in 2020, I mean, I think that was the sign that, like, hey, he's here, he's coming.
It was a crack in the sun.
A crack in the sun.
A crack in the sun.
Yeah.
That he said he was going to be coming through.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, watch for the crack in the sun.
Watch for the crack in the sun.
And I thought he meant like, I don't know what I thought he meant, but when Chris saw this story, because he saw it before I did, I knew it was him.
I don't want to believe it, but I know it.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, he's, if we're in a simulated reality, I see, this is why I think the tablets are they're telling the right story, but they're using the wrong language. And instead of extraterrestrials, we're really looking at people from the real world. Whereas, I mean, that's not to say that the real world isn't just another simulation inside of a simulation, but
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is. No.
We've pondered that idea. We've pondered simulation inside a simulation, but this is what convinced me. The fact that I went back, I saw my body in the pod. I saw the Cobra head. I saw the council. I saw the argument that we had with the council. I saw all of that. And I thought maybe that's just ego. But then when the caller from Trinidad called and said his wife saw the same thing and she doesn't listen to our show, she's just a regular person. That convinced me that, okay, this is gnosis. This is what really happened. This is a memory. It's not just a fabrication of ego. And so I think that's base reality. I really think it is. I don't think we created a simulation inside of a simulation. I think we're on the verge of creating a simulation inside of a simulation.
Yeah.
But I think, unless there's more realities between here and the pod with the Cobra body, but I know the Cobra body is the endpoint, the base reality. I could be wrong. It's subject to change, but if you would have asked me 2 months ago, I would have said, no, that's a simulation. But now with the confirmation, I think that's base reality. But we'll find out when we get back there, is the point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Absolutely.
let's get into the tablets.
Yeah, let's get into that. Let's take a quick break. What do you say?
Okay. Yeah.
Just
that
to
sounds good to me.
Break it up a little bit, and
when we come back, we'll get right into the tablets.
Blow our noses from this freaking cold we have. But you know what? When we do shows, we feel so much better being connected with each and every one of you.
Feel a million times better.
As I've said a million times over, there is no better medicine, psychedelics included, than being connected with all of you. The connection is so important.
Yeah.
It's important to be individuals. I've talked about that before. The whole connected to source consciousness and all this is bullshit. It's a mind wipe. That's essentially what happens. You give up your ego, you reconnect with source, you become nothing, and your mind is wiped and recycled back into the game.
Right.
So distinction between that, but the connection that we have here as individual creators is the most powerful force that there is. And it's very important to stay connected while at the same time stay individual. See, it's the Buddhist balance. It's the middle path. It's not left, it's not right. Everybody's always trying to polarize you in one direction or another. And I think that's why I piss off everybody, because I'm not polarized in one direction or another. Like with that Trump post earlier. I said, I really like what Trump has done up to this point, but I don't like his Venezuela thing, and I'm starting to get a little nervous about it. Mm-hmm. Oh, you won't take a hardline stance to get him. You won't. It's like, I don't want to be an extremist. I don't want to be a radical. I want to walk the middle path in everything that I do. I don't drink ayahuasca every day because I have to live my life too. but I have
Right.
to take a break from my life too, and I have to travel in the Aya realm because it's about the balance. Balance is so important.
Yes,
So,
it is.
On that note, we will be right back.
I'm going to go
with
balance my
more
nose.
Beyond the Veil.
Love you guys.
If you have a golf ball sized consciousness, when you read a book, you'll have a golf ball size understanding. When you look out, a golf ball size awareness. And when you wake up in the morning, a golf ball size wakefulness. But if you could expand that consciousness, then you read the book, more understanding. You look out, more awareness. And when you wake up, more wakefulness. It's consciousness. And there's an ocean of pure, vibrant consciousness inside each one of us. And it's right at the source and base of mind, right at the source of thought, and it's also at the source of all matter. This pure consciousness is called by modern physics the unified field. That allows any human being to dive within, experiencing subtler levels of mind and intellect, and transcend and experience this ocean of pure consciousness. It's at the base of all mind and all matter. And it's not the intellectual understanding of this field, but the experiencing of it that does everything. It's consciousness.
Well, Mrs. Geo isn't quite back yet, so I guess maybe we'll do the gay frogs. The gay frogs. It's been a while since we played this one. I love this one. This is one of my favorites here. All right.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Turn the friggin' frogs gay. Serious crap. Gay. Frogs, friggin' frogs. It's not funny. I'm gonna say it real slow for you. Gay. Frogs. Won't you fight for your life? Gay. Frogs, friggin' frogs. I don't like them frogs. Gay. Friggin' frogs. Frogs. Friggin' frog crap. Won't you fight the frogs? It's not funny. I'm gonna say it real slow for you. Frogs.
My dear traveler, the purpose of raw consciousness is never to destroy. It is always to create. Build bridges. Create happiness. And bring forth new life. We must live in the hope that mankind will draw together. And that we better understand each other. The more that we awaken, the easier this will become. Now rise. Follow your conductors. And fear no danger. As you step beyond the veil.
right, let's jump back into it. I see some chatter in the chat room that is kind of on point, kind of off point. They were talking about Trump is talking to the Russians, and I'm like, I think Trump should talk to everybody.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
What's
I think it's
wrong
great
with-
that he's talking to the Russians. I think it's great
called
that he's talking
diplomacy.
to North Korea. Yeah, that's how you make peace, communication. It's vital. It's important.
That's how he achieved peace between North and South Korea.
Yeah, yeah.
For the first time in like 70 years, 60 years, something crazy like that.
Yeah, that's huge. And that's what I want to see.
Yeah.
I just want to see a world where we're not blowing each other up. Simple. But somebody else...
I'd rather he talk with other countries rather than bomb them.
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with that. but-
Right. No. I totally agree with you. And all this is part of the reset, ladies and gentlemen. I get into politics every once in a while, but it's not because I'm looking at it as from a political thing. I mean, we went and we did whatever we did in freaking Egypt, and just reset the goddamn matrix.
Right.
I mean, it was hard freaking work, and there's going to be outcomes and residues and residual effects from it, and the political atmosphere is a big part of the reset process. We're trying to bring things back into balance, and so watching what's going on in the geopolitical sphere is interesting. It's not important. It's not something to harp on about and, fear and all this stuff like that. It's just interesting to watch. And especially, I feel like Trump is one of ours. He's the product. I said this in the chat room. I feel like he's the product of all the work that we've done spiritually to bring an energy into a position of power to be able to steer things in a particular direction, which is why I raised an eyebrow, and I'm, watching a little bit closer now that he's backing this war with Venezuela, because that's not the direction that we as the consciousness wants to take things. That's not part of the reset to go do the exact same thing as the oligarchy was doing before. So, that's why I pay attention to this kind of stuff. But somebody else mentioned that on CNN, former... what did he say? White House person or CIA person or something like that came out.
CIA, I think.
Yeah, talked about UFOs. I have a couple of different opinions on UFOs. Simulated reality is what I know this will be. So the cosmology that we're given, I don't think is right. I like the flat Earth hypothesis because it forces you to think outside of the box. I don't think the flat Earth hypothesis is 100% correct. Even though interesting thing just happened, one of the big flat Earth talking points is that the moon, as observable from here, seems to be inside of the Earth's atmosphere, and the moon and the sun are an equal distance away from each other, as the sun is large. So, I've gone over this before. I feel like I'm being redundant, but let's say the sun is the size of a basketball and the moon is the size of a marble, but they're equal distances away to where they perfectly eclipse one another. And I thought, oh, how coincidental. That's so interesting there. How lucky did we get to be in this perfect placement here? In the Goldilocks zone is how they call it.
And we're going to take it a step further by saying, and also all of these balls in the sky have effects on your body, your mind, your emotions. The moon rules emotions like nothing else.
Which doesn't make sense. To me, what makes sense is that the sun and the moon are relatively the same size, relatively an equal distance away, and are rotating somewhere a lot closer than what we believe it to be, which is, we've seen videos of hotspots shown on the surface of Earth from space. People have sent weather balloons and you see hot spots, just like if you were to take a lamp and put it close to an object. If you have a lamp that's way over there, it's not going to leave a hot spot on the wall, but the closer you put the lamp, we had this problem with that pink light up there. I hung it too close. It was making a hot spot.
God,
if you look at the previous video, there's a hot spot. We had to hang it from the ceiling, move it all the way back so we can avoid getting that hot spot there. If the sun was that far away, there wouldn't be a hot spot on Earth. Anyways, it's neither here nor there. I don't want to get into flat Earth stuff here. My point behind all of this is that UFOs and the cosmology that we hear about, I think if there are UFOs, it's one of two things. Either government crafts, one of three things. Government crafts, or there are beings that exist underground, or that come from maybe another little pocket of Earth that we don't know about. We only know what's on the map. We only know where flights are allowed to fly. You go beyond those borders, you go beyond all of that, we don't know what the hell's there because they have blockades and you're not supposed to fly in certain areas and all this, so who knows what's out there. I had an interesting dream several years back that I was on the edge of the Antarctic Ocean, and I was holding Lucy, who's our daughter, who doesn't exist in this timeline, doesn't exist in this world, but she exists in another timeline somewhere else. Maybe we had to come back here and fix this, and then we can go back to our normal timeline where Lucy exists.
Aww.
But she was a baby, and I was holding her, and the sky was pink, just like the pink behind you. And actually on camera, it doesn't look as pink.
It doesn't look
looks
as pink right
in
now.
the studio. Yeah, it's supposed to be a lot more pink, so maybe we'll fix that here. Not right now, but for the next show. But anyways, so the sky was pink, and we were boarding this craft, but it wasn't a spaceship. And I had her in my arms, and we got on this craft, and we started going across the ocean. And I was pointing up to the sky, and I was like, look, sweetheart. I was like, this is the edge of the earth. I said, very few people get to see this, but this is the edge right here. We're on the edge. And we were looking at the sky, which was this gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous sky. We board this craft, and then we fly over the ocean. And as we're going over the ocean, we get to another landmass that exists on the other side of the Antarctic Ocean. And there were little baby grays playing in the playground as we were pulling up to the port.
I remember that.
And there was like a whole city of grays. And the little baby grays were waving at her, and I was holding her like that, and she was waving back at them. And I was like, oh my God, that's beautiful. So, yeah, I know grays to be something different now. This was before I had the understanding of the grays now. But my point is that I think it's more likely that if there are other races and they're coming here on craft, they're coming from somewhere that's much closer, underground, another landmass that we don't know about. Remember we covered that Buddhist map?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had this ancient Buddhist map. You know, we're not even getting to the Lost Book of Enki, so I think I'm just going to have to change the title of this whole show here. Ancient Buddhist map, 10,000 years old. So I was digging around through the Chamber of Commerce archives, and I came across, this was back when I was looking at the flat earth stuff, and I was like, hey, you know, this is pretty interesting. I need to disprove this because it's just, you know, it's becoming a nuisance on my Facebook timeline, and I couldn't disprove it. The more I looked into it, the more I'm like, okay, there's something seriously going on here. They don't have it completely right, but there's something seriously going on. But I came across this article and made a video about it. And once I made a video about it, it just skyrocketed. Like everybody has picked up on this map here. But this map here that we have on the screen was from a publication, and I'm going off the top of my head here. I want to say it was in the late 1800s, early 1900s. About this map.
1907.
1907, okay. About this map that this Buddhist had. And the Chinese government, they're not allowed to have these maps. And he had drawn it and kind of kept it hidden from the Chinese government and from everybody else in order to preserve the knowledge. According to this article, that's from the Library of Commerce, or Library, what's the
Library of Congress.
Library of Congress. Oh, why did I say Chamber of Commerce earlier? I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyways, it's probably because I've got a freaking cold and
not feeling well.
Not on top of my game here.
Yeah.
But see, this is right here, the representation of the flat earth map. And funny enough, this is what all of the pilots and boat captains of ships and every every intercontinental travel uses this map right here. They don't use a round map, or they don't use the Mercator projection, or they don't use any of that. They use this map. It's called the azimuthal equidistant map. And it's supposed to be a top-down view of Earth. But anyways, this map here shows basically this flat Earth map here with all of these other continents outside of the perimeter. And I thought, could it be that there are different civilizations here? Like, let's say this is a civilization of grays here. This is a civilization of reptilians. This is a civilization of, who knows? So rather than them coming from the stars, maybe they're actually coming from places that are right outside of our known perimeter here. And I mean, if this is true, it seems like almost as if we're quarantined from everything else.
No, it is like we're quarantined from everyone else, because there's obviously a reason why the areas that are towards the bottom, towards the edges of each side of that circle, everywhere there are restricted areas where nobody can go.
Yeah.
And that's...
Yeah, there was a guy who he was on with Joe Rogan recently, and he was claiming to have traveled to Antarctica.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's do a map of Antarctica. So he was claiming to have traveled all the way across the continent of Antarctica. And I was like,
that was interesting.
I was like, that's brilliant. I was like, this completely annihilates the flat earth hypothesis. It's a globe 100%. So as he's talking and gets into the interview, he says, and this isn't a 100% accurate projection because I don't remember exactly what he did, but I remember, the kind of premise of it. So just a caveat here. He did something like this. He went here and then went here. Like from this point, and he went here and then came out on this point. And I'm like, that's not going across the freaking continent of Antarctica, dude. And Joe Rogan was like, oh yeah, this completely disproves the flat earth hypothesis, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, I was so disappointed because I thought we could put this thing to bed for good. But back to this original thing here. I think
the guy didn't cross Antarctica. He went to Antarctica.
Yeah. He
to
went
the outer layers
here and then here. And if you watch the interview, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, it could have been like, from here to here, something like that. I don't remember, but I know he did not go like that. And he didn't go this direction. He didn't go this direction. He didn't go this direction. He went like this and then like that. So I was really disappointed to see that.
Yeah.
But back to what I was talking about earlier here, which was it's more likely to me that if we do have UFOs, they're coming from somewhere else, or maybe even interdimensionally. That's a possibility too. I'm not taking that off the table. However, there is another factor to all of this, and that's of course Operation Bluebeam. And Bluebeam is something that Werner von Braun talked about, Carol Rosen talked about it as well. We've had her on the show a couple times before. And she said, first it was going to be Russians, and then there was going to be people hiding in caves, and then it was going to be threats of asteroids. And she said the final card is a staged alien invasion. And this was like back in 1999, 2000, before 9/11, before the asteroid thing. Remember, it was all asteroids back in 2010, 2011, 2012. Nibiru's coming back. It's going to smash into Earth. It's going to do all that. And so the chronological order that she described everything was the cycle that was being played out. And it seems like that cycle is still kind of repeating itself because we're back to Russian narrative, and we're going to go back to people hiding in caves. And then now, asteroids are going to come. I think I saw an article the other day about an asteroid supposedly slamming into Earth, and how are they going to prevent this and all this nonsense. And so the final card is a staged alien invasion. And we've seen them using technologies where they can project images in the sky. There was a pyramid with an all-seeing eye that was projected into the sky over Russia. There's a video on that. There's been several holographic projections. And the way the holographic technology works is you get satellites and you create a screen made out of barium and aluminum. I mean, this is in the patent office, the U.S. patent office. You create a screen of barium and aluminum that you can project these holograms upon through laser technology from the satellites. And we've had this chemtrail program. Some people would say it's to block out the sun. Others to say it's to make us sick. Others, could say that it's a blanket for this staged alien invasion. So the idea that this guy came out and was talking about UFOs and supposedly he's a CIA agent and all this, I mean, it could very well be a psychological operation to prepare people for blue beam, which they seem to be doing. If you look at film from the 1950s, it's been the UFO narrative. I mean, going all the way back, invasion from Mars, and invasion of the body snatchers, and invasion of the cock grabbers, and invasion of the pussy grabbers, all of that has been going on. And now, we have all these different films with with aliens. So I don't know. I know one thing for sure, though, is during my ayahuasca experiences, Isis was very clear. She said, don't trust the grays. The grays vibrate at the frequency of demons. And at the time, demons was the best thing that I can relate this to, because, they're not really demons. They're just,
they're at
malware.
Such a low frequency.
They're malware programs that are supposed to be working in the background, and they're not. They're coming into this dimension somehow. Or maybe there's two different kind of grays. Maybe the grays that we're seeing in the ayahuasca realm, the interdimensionals, are different from the ones that could possibly reside somewhere else, like the ones that I saw in the dream with Lucy, that she was waving at the baby grays. Maybe it's
there's
possible.
Good grays and bad grays.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
they could be just like people, where there's good ones and there's bad ones.
Yeah, and we have all these other operations too, like and they're all bird related. Like you have Operation Mockingbird, you have Project Bluebird, you have all these different mind control programs
related to birds.
And then you have this whole Corey Good bullshit about the blue avians and how they're coming to save us. And then that started falling apart. And people stopped listening to that narrative. So then they replaced that with Arcturians. But I mean, that wasn't even the first incarnation. The first incarnation that I remember was the Zetas, was Zeta Talk. And that woman, Nancy Leader, she was on Coast telling people that in 2002, Nibiru was coming through and they should euthanize their animals and prepare and do all this. And she killed her puppy. She had her puppy euthanized because she thought Nibiru was going to come through and she didn't want her puppy to live in that kind of environment. And so that transformed into Palladians. Remember, we had Palladian people on and all that. And then that transformed into the Bluebirds. And then that transformed into the Arcturians. So I'm really, really, really skeptical about UFOs and aliens. And when I look at something like the Lost Book of Enki, for example, I look at it from a different perspective. I look at it from the perspective of real world coming here, as opposed to aliens coming in. But here's the one thing, is that any beings that are here to help are not going to do anything but help you help yourself. They're not going to come in and open portals. There's not going to be a mass evacuation. There's not going to be an ascension. You have to put in the work. They might say, hey, here's how you put in the work, but that's going to be the end of it.
Right.
So I don't know. But then again, with Enki's arrival, where is he coming from? I think he's coming from the real world. I think he is too. The intuition that I'm getting is that he's coming in his cobra form.
Right.
So he's not human.
He's
not coming as a human. He's not coming to interact with humans. He's just coming to energetically
affect things,
create a safety net, and make sure shit gets done.
Right. I
mean, I don't want to get too much into this, but this next activation site, we're not going to be as protected as we were in Egypt.
We were thinking, even before all of this happened, before the sun thing happened, that the goddess, the mother goddess, the protective element that was part of the reason why we stayed safe when we were in Egypt, isn't going to be there, or isn't going to be able to affect the physical reality of the situation at the second site as much as it did for Egypt.
Yeah. Isis can guide, but she doesn't have as much influence over the next site. It's up to us. It's up to the BTV crew. It's up to organic consciousness to pull this next thing off.
Right, exactly.
And it's kind of chilling, but I mean, that's why 2019 is all about, like, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get your body ready, get your mind ready, get everything in order, because it's all on you. Holy shit, I'm getting chills up my spine now thinking about this. It's intense. It's really intense. I totally missed the point. I went on this whole rant about the cosmology. And I forgot the main point of what I was going at. So apparently now NASA is saying that the moon is actually inside of Earth's atmosphere.
Uh-huh.
And it's always been like that. You know,
Yeah, the
Oceana,
Earth's atmosphere goes 237,000 miles away.
yeah, so the moon actually has an atmosphere, which is Earth's atmosphere, which is exactly what the flat Earth people have been saying, that the moon is inside of Earth's atmosphere. So it's all funny.
It is.
It is.
Can we get to the tablets now?
Let's do it.
Because I'm starting to feel crappy.
Okay.
All right. The synopsis of the first tablet. So, lamentation over the desolation of Sumer. How the gods fled their cities as the nuclear cloud spread. The debates in the council of the gods. The fateful decision to unleash the weapons of terror. The origin of the gods and the awesome weapons on Nibiru. Nibiru's north-south wars, unification, and dynastic rules. Nibiru's place in the solar system. A dwindling atmosphere causes climate changes.
Okay, so I remember some of this. So here's what we'll do. We'll just go over a few points tonight. I want to read the tablets in full at a later time. I want to do 2 or 3 part show where we're doing nothing but reading the tablets because I think it's important for people to hear them. And if they're anything like me, they're not going to sit down and read it unless they're forced to on a video podcast. So, I'm like that. I sit down and I read and I'm like, oh.
I love
But you know what
reading.
happened though? My eyes were hurting. And now that I got that surgery, my eyes aren't hurting anymore.
Yeah, so
The dynamic might be different.
yeah, you might actually be able to read now without getting frustrated.
Yeah, because with the left eye was kind of funky. Oh, what's going on? Our freaking stream dropped.
Oh,
no, it's back. Okay.
Okay.
Anyways, so let's wait for the stream to catch back up here. We've had a problem with our internet, and I had the cable company come out, and they gave us a shit ton of credit because they're like, yeah, no, it's our fault. We're going to come out here and fix the infrastructure for you, and et cetera, et cetera. But it still pisses me off because we pay out the ass for the top tier freaking internet that there is, and we're still getting these weird fluctuations and drops.
Yeah.
It says here stream health is poor, which is great. But at least we're still on. So, okay, so what happened is the king died on Nibiru. And Alelu ran up and he's like, yes, I'm the next in line. And he goes and sits on the throne. And they were like, whoa, you're not supposed to be there. And Anu was like, he's like, no, I'm supposed to be here. You know what? I'm not remembering it right. I remember there was a wrestling match between Anu and Alelu. And Anu, yeah, that's what happened. Anu and Alelu had a wrestling match on Nibiru. And Anu had won. Alelu he got pissed off because he felt like disgraced when he had lost this wrestling match, and they had already built these weapons of mass destruction. And so Alelu decides, hey, I'm gonna reclaim my dignity because Nibiru, the atmosphere, was crumbling, and they needed gold in order to do like chemtrail type technology to spray in the sky. And so Alelu, trying to redeem himself, he decided in the middle of the night he was going to take one of the spacecraft and journey to Earth because they knew that on Earth there was a lot of gold. So he took the spacecraft and he traveled through to the asteroid belt. And he used some of the nuclear weapons to blast a hole through the asteroid belt because you couldn't get through the asteroid belt. It was kind of a protective layer around Earth, at least according to the tablets. Blasted that and landed on Earth, and he had found gold on Earth. And he called back to Nibiru and said, hey, I found gold here. And then they decided that they were going to send the Anunnaki down to Earth to mine the gold. So they brought a bunch of their slaves And they still had some of the weapons on board on the spacecraft that Alelu had taken. And they decided that they were going to hide these weapons off in the mountains and that nobody was allowed to use these weapons because they were just horrible. Like, it's like the atomic bomb. It's like the whole world decides, okay, we've got these atomic bombs. We're going to hide them. We're not going to use them because they're just too destructive. So they started mining the gold. And the Anunnaki who were down here, there was one part in the tablet where Anu is like so proud of everybody. And he's like, well, I'm going to name you the Anunnaki, those who from heaven came to earth, and gave them the title. And then he started giving titles to several of the people, like Enlil was a title. Enki is actually a title. Enki means Lord of the Earth.
Lord of the Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Prince of the Earth. And so Enki was given the Abzu, which was down in South Africa area. And this is where Michael Tellinger is. And we've had Michael talking about the seed of Adam, I think it was. And how everything was kind of the center point right there in the South African region. Mm-hmm. Enlil was given a little bit up higher, and everybody had their different roles. And so the Anunnaki started to rebel because it was way too hot on Earth. It was way hotter than on Nibiru. And they had found that their lifespans were being shortened because of the rotation of the Earth going around the sun was much faster than on Nibiru. So their lifespan was shortened. And they started becoming very weak and they rebelled. And so Enki and Enlil were sitting there and they were like, all right, so what do we do here? We've got this problem. We don't have workers. These guys are just, they're rebelling. And Enki says, well, maybe we can use some of the hominoid species here to genetically engineer, create man, or create a being that would be strong enough to work to toil. That's what the specific word is, toil in the Abzu, to mine the gold, and also to be able to be controlled, and also to be able to sustain the environment here on Earth naturally. So they took the hominoid creatures here and created in Enki's laboratory in clay pots. And within the clay pots, they created the Adams and the Eves. And this was the first race. Adamu is what they called it. And they realized that the Adams, or the Adamu, they were very strong, but they were still too dumb to control. And they were not getting the job done. So Enki goes back to his laboratory and he's like, pondering, how can I make these things a little bit better? So he tries several different ways of genetically engineering them. But he had a few of them that were defective. So he made one that didn't have legs, and he made one that couldn't see, and all of that, different deformities and abnormalities. But instead of killing them, Enki gave them different roles. Like the one that didn't have legs was to sit by the king's side, and the one that couldn't see was to have a certain job. So instead of killing them, even though they were nothing, they were like flies, because the Anunnaki, according to the tablets, would live hundreds of thousands of years. The lifespan of these things were like 80 years or 100 years. And so it was literally like the lifespan of a fly. He could have just killed him just like that with no problem. But I think what that story was showing is the empathy that Enki had for his creations, even when they were deformed. So then he went to his wife, who was Ninhursag, and he said, look, I think we need to... Do you need to blow your nose?
I need to go to the bathroom.
Oh, you need to go to the bathroom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
Perfect.
So, let's take a quick break right there, because, I feel like I'm talking to myself while Cherie's gone. But we'll pick it up at the creation of the second species, which were created within Hersak's womb. So don't go anywhere. And again, this is just kind of a summary of the tablets, and I do want to go over the tablets in full. in the next couple of shows. So we'll be right back.
All the conflict and strife throughout history, all the fear and hatred, serve but one purpose: to keep my master's wheel turning. The coin is still turning. All souls were prisoners, trapped in the pointless round of existence, leading distracted, blunted lives until death returned them, always in ignorance, to the wheel. But what hope had they then?
There is no escape.
It was then I knew what I had to do. I alone could end this. And it was then I saw.
So, I am revealed to you at last.
What in hell?
I am the origin of life, the devourer of death. I am the hub of the wheel, the purifying cycle to which all souls must be drawn. You would be wise to heed me.
Your words are hardening. For you would not fear us unless we could truly do you harm.
No! You are nothing!
False God. This is the end. The final turn of your wheel.
You're gonna live in a tank and be tied into this virtual world. You'll be able to wire your head in and just get unlimited pleasure. It'll feel like 10 times the best orgasm for 3 days if you want straight. They're taking the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. There's the owners of Truth Frequency Radio. They believe they're communicating with entities. They call them clockwork elves. I'm not going to get into what they're interfacing with. They believe they're in contact with off-world groups. Chris Geo, Truth Frequency Radio, he takes it. You see the elves, little green hats. We're in trouble, ladies and gentlemen. We're in trouble. The clockwork elves, all of it, I shouldn't even get into it. There's a reason they're all whacked out of their minds. They're taking DMT. And the point is that their whole science is way ahead. We don't even know what they've got. They're in power because they're taking the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Chris Geo took the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Chris Geo took the DMT. You think they're all a bunch of old men? They're in power because they were into this stuff 70 years ago. The DMT. They were jacking DMT 70 years ago. They were injecting it. They're taking the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Chris Geo took the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Truth Frequency Radio took the DMT. I shouldn't even get into it.
Well, Mrs. Geo isn't back quite yet, so I guess I'll have to entertain you. Oh, here she is. Cool. So we can just run this intro.
My fellow travelers, always remember to walk uprightly and circumscribe your desires as we travel upon the level of time to that undiscovered state of consciousness, traveling to the place where once obtained, no traveler returns. The place of raw consciousness which awaits us when we are past beyond the veil.
All right, Mrs. Geo has returned to us, so now I can actually, when I'm talking, I can see somebody.
Oh,
And this new studio setup is so freaking awesome because I didn't realize the difference in dynamic when I actually can look at you.
Yeah,
I'm usually,
make eye contact.
Yeah, looking at you on the screen, but anyways, so I was talking about the Lost Book of Enki, and when he appeared to me in the DMT realm, he said he referred to himself as Enki, which was a different pronunciation. It's like Enki instead of Enki. But I just kind of got used to saying it Enki again, even though at first I was saying it Enki because everybody else says it Enki too. So, we'll just go with that. But, one thing about the tablets that I skipped over, and this is why it's important to go over them again in full on another show, was the 7 days of creation. On the first day when they landed, they separated the waters. They separated the waters part for drinking and part for bathing in. And so everything from the Bible, the 7 days of creation, is on the 7 tablets of creation too in the Lost Book of Enki that it basically echoes exactly what's in the Bible, except for brings it into a more realistic approach. Instead of, he separated the waters above and the waters below, and he saw that it was good. They were tasked with separating the waters, some for drinking, some for bathing and washing, which makes more sense to me than, all the BS we get in the Bible. So anyways.
Well, and as above, so below, the things in your body that take in fluids and nutrients are separated by a huge distance from the things that typically smell bad around your body. And when you're separating the waters above from the waters below, that could also mean separating the waters that are fit for drinking versus the ones that it's okay to get dirty. As above, so below.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. She's been so insightful, ladies and gentlemen. Like all week long, she's just been totally on fire. So, Ankh is I in Hebrew, in some places like Yahweh referring to itself. Ah, interesting. So, so back to the creation in the Lost Book of Enki. And again, I'm just summarizing and trying to remember everything off by memory. So they tried to create the Adamus in clay pots, which the first creation story in the Bible, there are 2 creation stories, if you really pay attention. The first one was created from clay, and both of them, both male and female, were created from clay. And then in the Bible, they created Adam and then took the rib of Adam and created Eve with. So it's interesting. A lot of people don't pick up on this. I mean, I think now in 2019, a lot of people are aware of this, but I remember back in 2010 when we first started talking about it, it came as a shock to me. And I had to go back and reread the Bible and go, wait a minute, there's 2 creation stories? Man was created twice? Oh shit, man was created twice.
Male and it says first, male and female, he created them.
Out of clay.
Well, yeah, but the Bible says male and female, he created them. And then a chapter later, it says, and I created Adam. It's like, whoa, wait a second. Where did these other people come from?
And then created Eve from Adam's rib.
Right.
Well, there's also other discrepancies too, like Adam and Eve's kids. Which one was the one that went off to another land?
Cain.
No, it wasn't Cain.
Yeah, it was.
Was it
Cain and Abel?
Cain and Abel. Okay. Somebody went off to another land and there were more people at that other land.
Yeah, for some reason.
And it's like, well, wait a minute. The Bible says there were only these 4 people on earth. Where did all these other people in these other lands come from?
Right. And this makes sense, though, if you're talking instead about an actual group, about a person, a singular male and female, if you're talking about a race or, a project subsidiary. If you're creating a species, you're not going to create just 2 of them.
Yeah.
You're going to create like a couple dozen at least, and work from there, and then have them mate with each other and study them.
That's true.
So, yeah.
The Bible also talks about the land of, I don't remember the name of the land, but the land is rich in onyx and gold. And I thought,
Chem?
No, this is in the Bible.
Oh,
Is Chem in the Bible?
I think
I
it
don't know.
was.
Maybe it is. Yeah, maybe it was the land of Chem. I don't remember. But in the Bible, it talks about this particular, go to this land, it's rich in onyx and gold. And it's like, well, wait a minute. What does God need onyx and gold for? I remember reading that a long time ago when I read the Bible, like in my 20s. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird, but whatever. It's funny because I had the mentality back then of, I just don't have the understanding, and I just don't have the, Sandpaper donated. Thank you, Sandpaper,
thank
you rock.
Sandpaper.
Thank you. So anyways, back to the Book of Enki. So the first people were created in clay. The second ones, though, because they couldn't be controlled and they were just too dumb, he went in her sack. And he said, "Hey, I want to put some of these. I want to put some of this DNA in your womb.
Yep.
What do you think about that?"
Want to be, let's do some xenotransplantation.
Yeah. And she's like, "Hell no!" She's like, "There's no way." And he convinced her to do it. This is the mother goddess.
In her sack.
And so, So they did. And Enki put the DNA of the hominoids inside of Ninhursag and created Adape and Titi, the pair. And so they were in Eden, which was where all the gold was being mined, and they were in the garden and they were playing. And Enki was watching them and saying, "Wow, these things are different. There's something going on here." And he was just letting them just frolic and just to see what they would do and how they would act and all of this. And then Enlil comes in and he's like, "What the hell is going on here?" And Enki's like, "Look, there's something different about them. I created them out of Ninhursag's womb, and they have the divine spark in them like we have. They have something, they have a spirit in them." I think when they say the divine spark, in the Book of Enki, I translate that as a spirit, as a consciousness, as they're like organic, as opposed to just NPC programs just running around. There was something unique about them. And Enlil was like, "What the hell?" And he goes up to him and he's like, "Why are you guys naked? Why are you guys running around?" And they're like, "Oh my God!" And they cover themselves, and you get the whole story of covering yourself and all that. Echoes the Bible completely. And
well, I can just see it in my mind. Enlil going to Enki and saying, "Why are they wearing clothes? You're putting clothes on them now?" That's like, to him, it would seem like like us putting clothes on a monkey, a pet monkey that we had raised.
Yeah.
It's just silly and stupid considering that he saw these humans as cattle, as, slaves,
Right.
or potential slaves. Hey, can you train them enough to work for me? That's all he cared about. And so he sees them wearing clothes and he's like, well, what the fuck, dude?
Well, the symbology of the nakedness is also symbolic throughout history because slaves were kept naked. Slaves were kept shaved.
Right.
Slaves wore sackcloth. They weren't allowed to wear regular clothes.
Right.
They were also circumcised. That way you could tell. Even if a slave escaped, grew his hair out, all that,
you can't ever get your foreskin back.
Yeah, you can't get your foreskin back. So that was all about, you have the Bible stories of going, I think it was Samson who went and got, all these foreskins.
10,000 foreskins
David,
or something like that.
David. No, it was David. Yeah, he got
1,000
foreskins
to win his bride.
Yeah. That was symbolic of making them slaves.
Yeah.
That it wasn't about the foreskins. It was about cutting off the foreskins to show, I've brought you 1,000 slaves.
Mm-hmm.
And they were also kept shaved with ropes around their necks, which is very similar to what's going on now. Mm-hmm. The corporate world, you wear a tie. Men are supposed to cut their hair short.
Right.
And boys are circumcised. It's slavery. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I don't want to get into the circumcision thing, but I mean, it's genital mutilation, and people are waking up to that, and it's great. But it was, supposedly tradition for thousands of years. And even the Jews do it to symbolize, they say it's a sacrifice because you sacrifice the most sensitive part of the sexual pleasure for God. But I think it just goes back to the slavery thing. It's here, I'm a slave to this being now. Now, if you're circumcised, it's not, you had no choice in the matter, so it doesn't matter.
Right. It's not like you can.
No. But it's the history behind it. That's one of the reasons why I wear my hair long.
And what it symbolizes, because it takes away a lot of the sensations. I mean, from what I've heard, I wouldn't know, but,
yes,
I've heard it takes away a lot of the sensation and
also
damages it.
From what I've heard too, the foreskin also allows a more intimate bond with your partner that is missing when it's cut off. Like there's a lot, there's an
oxytocin release related to the foreskin.
Yeah. Anyways, that's another show. So we created these two, Adape and Titi, and saw that they were different. And so he couldn't make them go and work in the garden, in the Abzu, because they were different. So he took them to the side and he taught them the priesthood. He taught them astrology. He taught them the secret arts and all of that, and kind of took them as their own, as his own kind of children and I guess disciples, priests, whatever you want to call it. So then Anu, who was still in Nibiru, he called from Nibiru and he's like, hey, what's going on down there? And Enlil's like, I don't know what's going on. Enki's lost his freaking mind. He's created these things. They're, they've got some kind of divine spark in them. They're different. We're still trying to get the gold over here. Enki's just completely fucking up. And there was a rivalry between Enlil and Enki that broke out. And there were a couple of other details that we'll talk about when we read the tablets that created the rift between the two. And, there was always a source of contention too, because Enki was born of a concubine and he was supposed to be next in line after Anu, but that's a whole nother story to get into as well. There was a wrestling match also on Earth between Alelu and, you know what? I'm not going to get into that because I don't remember it. I want to say it's between Alelu and Enki. Or I know Alelu and Enlil, but I could be wrong about this. No. It was Alelu and Anu. This is what, yes, I remember now. There was a wrestling match again between Alelu and Anu to try to settle disputes about the kingship, because Alelu wanted the throne on Nibiru and then started some more shit here on Earth too. During the wrestling match, Alelu bit off Anu's phallus, and you get the story of the golden phallus at that point, the Osirian legends. And as a punishment, Alelu was sent to Mars and kind of dropped off there. And there was one Anunnaki that went with him and into this exile on Mars. And when Alelu died, this other Anunnaki that went with him constructed a large face, constructed his face on Mars. And that's where you get the face on Mars, supposedly, to honor him. That's like his tomb. And it would be interesting to see if there's, any validity to that, which with the cosmology that I understand, I don't think there is. But we're just going by what the tablets are saying. So that was just kind of a side story that happens to be included in here, but it shows the rivalry between everybody as well. And so they got the gold operation going, and they had managed to make some slaves to mine the gold, and Titi and Adape were kind of separate. So they set up a way station on Mars, and they sent some of the Anunnaki who were already here on Earth, who, again, Anunnaki is a title, those who from heaven came to Earth, and he sent them to Mars to work on the way station. So Anu was like, all right, I want to check everything out. He calls, hey, what's going on? Comes down for a visit, And he says, those of you here, I'm going to dub you the Anunnaki. Those of you on Mars, I'm going to dub you the Ajiji. You have saved Nibiru by bringing in all this gold so we can repair our atmosphere. So he wanted to visit with Titi and Adape. So he summoned Adape to Nibiru. And Enki and Enlil were together, and Enlil was like, look, we can't have these things living as long as we do. He's like, you have to forbid him from drinking from the waters of life on Nibiru. Because if they drink, if they have our lifespan, they're going to take us over. And there's going to be a big rebellion. And so Enki, this is one thing, this is what he did in the tablets, and I don't agree with it. But he told Adape and Titi, when you go to Nibiru to visit Anu, don't eat or drink anything because it will kill you. And it was actually the opposite. It would have given them
eternal life.
Not eternal life, but it would have given them the lifespan.
The lifespan of an Anunnaki, which is basically
Hundreds
like
of thousands
eternal
of
life
years.
to us, because I guess, I don't know when our years were shortened, because you have people in the Bible that lived to be almost 1,000 years old, and then 969 to be exact. And then suddenly it says in the Bible that the God of the Bible, Yahweh, he basically said, it is not good for man to live that long. So from now on, I'm going to limit his numbers to like 120 years.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah.
So, yeah, you see the lifespan being shortened in the Bible. You're right.
Mm-hmm. It's not good that man gets to live that long. That's not good. Now I'm going to cut that off.
Yep. So, Adape and Titi come back, and at this point, now they decide, all right, we need to set up some tribes because we have a lot of them here. And he's like, if these all get together, this is the whole council now. They're like, all right, if they get together, they're going to overthrow us. I mean, they outnumber us way more now. And so they created separate tribes amongst their slaves. It specifically says in the tablets, they gave them alcohol to keep them docile.
Mm-hmm.
They created conflicts between the tribes, so the tribes would be at war with one another, so they wouldn't unite. It was divide and conquer, divide and conquer. You see the plan, the New World Order, quote unquote New World Order plan that we're talking about, that we're seeing still playing out to this very day. You read about this going all the way back to the creation of man, according to the Sumerian tablets, which is very interesting. But alcohol was specifically named. They didn't name psychedelics. They didn't name mushrooms, ayahuasca, nothing like that. They named alcohol specifically for keeping people divided. So at this point, they knew that Nibiru was coming back, and that when it came back, it was going to cause a great deluge. Actually, I'm skipping a major part here, but it's because I don't remember it as clearly, and we'll go over it when we go over the tablets. But I mean, I guess I can tell you what I remember. So there was a conflict between Shumar, which was the central city of the Anunnaki, and another city, and it was Enki's son Marduk and Enlil's son, who I don't remember his name, and they got into a huge conflict, and Marduk knew where the weapons of mass destruction were. So he goes and he gets the weapons from the mountains against everybody's approval and detonates these to get Enlil's son, who was in Shumar. And that's where you have the destruction of Shumar, which people theorize, if this really did happen, it was around where the Dead Sea is. And that's why we have the Dead Sea and no life is there, because it's basically a nuked radiation zone that has never recovered from its calamity. They call that the Great Calamity.
Mm-hmm.
So then Nibiru was coming back. And you know what? Now that I think about it in hindsight, I might have some of the events in a different order. This might have happened after the deluge and after everything was rebuilt. So don't quote me on that. And again, we'll go over everything in detail later. But Nibiru was coming back, and they'd created this civilization that was working for them, mining their gold, different tribes, all of that. And the council met, and they decided that they were deciding on whether to tell the humans about the coming of Nibiru, because it was going to wipe out everything on the planet, as it was just going to create this huge flood. And a lot of people don't realize, but when you have a flood of that magnitude, you have all kinds of different water temperature fluctuations. You have fresh water mixing with salt water. Everything dies. The fish don't survive because the water fluctuations and all of this, like literally everything dies. And they were all talking and they all voted. We can't tell the humans. And it wasn't some kind of sinister agenda or anything like that, but rather it was that they had said, look, we violated the creator of all's law. This is something that really got me when I started reading this, is they acknowledge the creator of all. And that made me go, okay, so these things really aren't gods in the sense of creating gods. I mean, we're all divine, we're all gods, and goddesses and all that, but they're on our level. They're not to be worshipped. They're these deities, and I think their stories were echoed in Egypt. Their stories were echoed in other civilizations as well. We get this repetition of these same stories, and I think that's why the Egyptians, for example, they never worshipped the gods. They revered the gods.
Right.
Big difference.
They saw them as wise counselors.
Counselors, helpers.
Yeah.
Not bow down and worship and fear and all this. The Yahweh type of energy that we see in modern day religions. They didn't have structured religion, at least not in the sense that we have structured religion now. No. Which, they were... To me, that resonates a lot. Well, it says a lot about personal power, too.
If you look at, accepted history even, the time that we've had this one monotheistic God is 2,000 years versus the hundreds of thousands of years that we've been on this earth. It's a very small part of who we've been as a species. Whether organic or inorganic, it doesn't matter. We've all kind of been dedicated. We're usually dedicated to the idea that there's a deeper force that's guiding us and helping us. It's not something that you're scared of. It's something that you tap into. It's an energetic thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So they decided we violated the creator of all's law by coming to another planet. Apparently that's off limits because you're not supposed to interfere with another planet, especially one that's developing in such an infancy state as Earth was when they came. I mean, it was nothing but like hominoid creatures walking around and animals and things like that. No technology, no civilization, nothing like that. Species like that is supposed to evolve on its own without outside influence. But they did so out of necessity because they needed the gold for their atmosphere. And apparently, according to the tablets, gold is such a rare commodity in the galaxy that Earth is one of the only places that it's so abundant. Kind of like Dune. Remember we saw Dune? Mm-hmm. And they had the spice, and it was only available in Arrakis. And he who controls Arrakis controls the universe because of the trade of the spice.
Right.
And spice is vital to space travel. I think that's why they call DMT spice.
Because
it's vital.
It is vital to space travel.
It is vital to, what else is extended life? Or something like that.
The spice extends consciousness.
Yeah,
the spice
expands consciousness. The spice expands life. Yeah. So, they said, so we already committed one universal sin here. Are you okay, sweetie?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. We can wrap it up here in a little bit if you want.
Okay.
Okay.
That would probably be good.
I can tell you're
Starting to fade a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So we already violated one law of the creator of all, which was to come to another planet. We made a huge violation of the creator of all's law by manipulating the DNA of the hominoid species here. And they were like, look, we're already in deep shit enough as it is with the creator of all. We can't tell the humans because it has to be their fate and it's up to the creator of all. And so the council agreed and they weren't going to tell the humans. Well, Ninhursag, who had carried Adape and Tidi in her womb, went to Enki and said, hey, wait a minute. Just like any mother would. Hey, wait a minute. We created these things. It doesn't matter what the council says. We created them.
We're responsible.
We're responsible for them. I mean, almost as if like, how we're responsible for our animals. We get a dog. We're responsible for its life. We're responsible to give it a good life. We're responsible for it to be happy and healthy and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, you have to do something. And Enki's like, well, what do you want me to do? Just go against the council? And she's like, yeah, go against the council. Save life. Save life, save life. It was repeated 3 times. I specifically remember those words. And it was almost as if when I read them, I could hear them. I can hear Ninhursag saying it. Save life, save life, save life. The 3-time repetition. There was something special and magical about her saying it like that. And Enki said, okay, that's what we'll do. So he went to his lab assistant, Zui Zudra. And he said, all right, give me all the DNA samples that we have, everything. Just give me everything, put it in a box. And he goes down to Noah, who was just a regular person, just, living in a wooden tent. And he was talking through the reed of the wall, is the way that they said it. So Enki goes to the reed of the wall, to the wall made out of reeds. And he tells him, hey, there's going to be a flood and you need to build an ark. You need to build this. My lab assistant, Zui Zudra, is going to come and give you all of the DNA samples, but you need to be ready for this large flood that's about to come. But he told it to the reed wall. He didn't tell it to anybody in particular. Right. So that was his justification of...
Whoever just happened to be standing on the other side of the wall?
I didn't tell the humans. I told a reed wall. There happened to be a human on the other side. So that's exactly what he did. And created the ark. And Zui Zudra came with all of the DNA samples. Now, to me, that makes much more sense than the animals came 2 by 2 and got on the ark and were living amongst each other like lions living with zebras and all of this, and nobody got eaten.
Yeah.
To me, it makes sense that it was DNA samples.
But what doesn't make sense to me is why couldn't he have just taken the box with the DNA samples with him?
Because he was going
Anunnaki.
up with the council.
Oh.
Yeah, they went up to their spaceships. I mean, I guess he could have smuggled it on board.
Yeah.
But I don't know how big this box was. Let's say the box
it could have been
the size
several
of the room.
boxes.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about all the animals.
Every DNA sample of everything that existed, humans, animals alike, literally everything, plants, everything.
Yeah,
and
we've got the seed vault.
Yeah.
Underground in the Antarctica, or no, the Arctic Circle. Correction.
Yeah.
And it's huge.
Right. So he took his DNA samples, and they left, and they went up to their spaceships and sat around the spaceships. And some people would say that the Black Knight satellite, which is a very weird object that's supposedly circling around the Earth that predates any of our technology by thousands of years. Nobody knows what the satellite is, but there have been a few pictures caught of it. Some people say that the Black Knight satellite is actually a remnant of this particular event that happened. So they were hanging out in their spaceships, and after the deluge, they came down to investigate and see, just take a look at the damage, which it was like total disaster. I mean, it was, flooding all the way up to high mountain peaks. And they landed on, they were flying around Mount Ararat. Is that how you say it? Ararat?
Mount Ararat.
Ararat. And they happened to smell barbecue. And they're like, hey, who's burning meat?
Uh-huh.
What's going on here? And Enki's like, I don't know what's going on. It's Enki and Enlil in the spaceship. And Enlil's like, all right, we need to go down here and check this out. Something's going on. And they land and they see Noah and his family making a burnt offering. And Enlil's like, what the hell did you do? Did you tell them that there was going to be a flood? And Enki was like, no, I told a reed wall there was going to be a flood. And so they went back down and saw the whole family had survived this flood, and all the DNA samples were there and intact and ready to be rebuilt again. So they go back to the council, and the council's pissed because Enki had violated the will of the council, and Enki's title was stripped from him for at least that small portion. He became known as the Prince of Darkness at that point instead of the Prince of the Earth, because he had violated the council's wishes. So that's where you get the title Prince of Darkness from. What do you think about that?
I think that would make a lot of sense, considering that a lot of scholars think that Enlil is Yahweh, Jehovah, cut the end of your dick off kind of guy. You know, he was really a slave master.
Yeah.
And even in the Bible, he sounds like a slave master. Just because people were complaining that they hadn't had meat in like 3 months, he makes them all sick.
Well, this is what happened. They rebuilt civilization.
Mm-hmm.
And then Enlil said, all right, screw you. I'm out of here. I'm taking my people. I'm taking my chosen people. And we're going over here and we're building our own civilization.
Yep.
Which you get all the other tales after that.
Yep.
So the Anunnaki come back, and again, they built cities and all this. And this is where I'm getting a little bit confused on the chronological order of things. I mentioned earlier about them creating separate tribes and introducing alcohol and things like that.
I think that's when they did that.
That's happened post-flood, not pre-flood.
Yeah, that was post-flood.
We'll go over the tablets again in full. So from that point, there were a few more rivalries, and Marduk wanted to take over. There was one story towards, I think it's in the 5th tablet. It's one of the tablets at the end, that Marduk, he escapes and he's being hunted by everybody because I think he got the weapons again. You know what? I take that back. I think the destruction of Shumar was after the flood as well. Mm-hmm. And Marduk got the weapons, detonated the weapons without anybody knowing. And because of that, they all were like after him. They were going to kill him. And he went and he hid in the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid, where we drank ayahuasca. Mm-hmm. And the Great Pyramid was a maze. They didn't know how to get into it, because the true entrance of the Great Pyramid was through a series of tunnels, underground tunnels, where you went miles and miles and miles in this underground maze to get into the Great Pyramid. There wasn't an opening back then.
Right.
But what they did is they blasted an opening in the side of it, which is named now the Smuggler's Tunnel, which is where people enter into.
It happened
now.
just a few hundred years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they blasted into the Great Pyramid to get into the king's chamber because they couldn't figure out how to get in through the maze.
Yeah.
And they got Marduk, and Enki came and he said, look, this is my son. And he said, he's committed a horrible crime against us, against humanity, against everything else, but spare him and I'll do whatever. And then Enlil said, all right, fuck off. Get out of here. Go. Leave. And Enki said, all right, I'll go into exile if you spare Marduk. And Enki went, at that point, to South America. Created a whole nother civilization there. The Mayans, the Aztecs, all of that. And Enlil took his people and created their civilization. Mm-hmm. And there's more to the story as well, but we'll have to read the tablets in full to get into it. But that gives you kind of an idea of who Enki is. He was the creating force behind the divine spark, which is inside of humans. He saw the potential that we have for the divinity inside of us. He recognized the divinity inside of us. You know, that people use the term namaste, and I hate the term because it's so fake when people say it. What it means, though, is not fake. What it means is the divinity in me recognizes the divinity in you. Enki recognized the divinity in all of us. And Enki had a love for an unconditional love, not only for us, for his own children too. I mean, Marduk, who's the enemy. I would argue that Marduk is actually Set. And that's where you get the stories of Set from, which are the stories of Marduk. And this is why I have a little bit of a discrepancy in my mind, and I'm not quite sure if the Yahweh character represents Enlil or Marduk, because they both share similar traits. But then again, Enlil was at the very beginning in the garden with Adape and Titi. And so Enlil / Yahweh, who went to Adam and Eve and said, hey, what the hell are you doing? You know, how do you know you're naked? You know, so on and so forth. Why'd you eat from the tree of knowledge? All that is the Enlil story. But at the same time, Marduk had the same type of, I'm taking my people and I'm going to go, you know, start my own civilization. I'm going to be the king of that civilization, so on and so forth. And Marduk wanted to rule. So did Enlil. And so it's hard to tell which one's Yahweh. I'm pretty sure, I think, I would concede with the general consensus that it's Enlil.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
No.
But Enki created some civilizations. I ponder and speculate on whether Marduk was behind creating the Aztecs, because the Aztecs were much wilder. They were vicious.
Yeah.
They were barbaric.
We're talking about the Mayans were the ones that
the Mayans
Enki created.
were the ones that Enki created. The Aztecs, I theorize, Marduk. You know, the human sacrifices, all that. That's all Marduk type of stuff.
That's his territory.
Yes.
It's not Enki's territory.
Like Yahweh on steroids.
Yeah. Well, you know who also he had help from at every point of this journey, Enki. He had a guy named Ningshasida, and Ningshasida, according to several scholars, is Thoth. And that's where it wraps around with Egyptian mythology, because then that makes sense of the Egyptian mythology as well as the Sumerian, as well as the Judeo-Christian. All of those mythologies are wrapped up in one single idea. And that is that Ningshasida was the guy that was helping them create man. He was there helping them establish civilizations. And he was basically the Anunnaki's man on the ground in all of these stories. And he was the one that helped tell Noah to get ready for the flood. He's the one that he's the one that went to South America.
Hold on. What was his name?
Ningshasida.
You know what? I think I might have gotten the names confused. Zuizudra was Noah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Zuizudra was Noah. So his lab assistant was, what's the name again?
Ningshasida.
Yes. Okay. I think that's correct.
Yeah. And then Ningshasida, not Enki, was the one that really went to South America after everything went down. I guess Enki sent him to South America, and he did most of the work as Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah.
Creating the Mayan culture.
Yep.
And then there was something beautiful, and then it all had to get messed up. And good thing the Mayans disappeared before the Aztecs came along, because they were just vicious.
People have asked if Enki is Thoth's father.
Yeah,
I think so.
According to them, yeah. It says Ningshasida, Thoth, amazing son to Erishkigal and Enki.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So interesting.
Well, he built he built the pyramid too.
He built the pyramids, yeah.
Yeah.
He was always consulted. Him and Seyshot were always consulted whenever they would build anything new, especially a pyramid or a temple or something like that. It all had to be run by them.
Yeah.
Because it all had to be geometrically sound in order to get the energetic benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Enlil kind of screwed up, because his people were just all about warfare, domination, slavery, all of that. Whereas the Egyptians had a lot more going for them with a lot less violence involved. And so, anyway.
And that's the way the news goes.
Yeah, I'm getting really tired. But
Are you, well, I want to do a little bit longer, if that's
okay,
because we have some great comments in the chat, and also Eminem.
Mm-hmm.
She sent us her experience on Facebook, and so I wanted to read that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we won't take any callers tonight though, because I know callers. That'll be another 2 hours.
I love you guys, but I'm still not 100%.
Poor baby. So yeah. So we're right back to the story of Thoth and Seyshot, where the journey continues.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to take a quick break on that note, and we'll be right back to wrap it up with some comments. But let me just say this for you, ladies and gentlemen. We haven't even scratched the surface.
Oh, yeah, we barely.
The tablets.
Yeah.
Because we're not feeling well, I just wanted to give you kind of a synopsis of what's going on. Yeah. Let's see. Have we played this one? Oh yeah, we have. So I lost all my 2-minute.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, I lost the whole hard drive. Yeah, that's. Let me see. Maybe we can entertain people with. Here we go. How about the? This is always fun. Jones is such a character.
Yeah,
he really is. I like the guy. I don't like what he says. I don't agree with anything he says, but we met on the Prison Planet Forum.
Yeah, we did. So he was kind of responsible.
If it wasn't
us
for Alex, then
we never would have met each other. We would have never met each other.
Yeah,
or crossed each other's paths otherwise. So
I don't want to see him kissing goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. I don't want to see him kissing goblins, succubus with goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. I don't want to see him kissing goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. I don't want to see him kissing goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. Dump it. Charging into a goblin's nest, some goblin vomit and slop and blood on it, especially up to his ankles. Trump charging into a goblin's nest, some goblin vomit and slop. Goblin vomit and slop. I'm not expecting him to not get dirty slop. Kissing goblins, ingratiating goblins, succubus with goblins, in bed with a goblin. Kissing goblins, ingratiating goblins. I just want to catch him in bed with a goblin, in bed with a goblin, in bed with a goblin, in bed with a goblin. I just want to catch him in bed with a goblin, bed with a goblin, bed with a goblin, bed with a goblin. And they tell the trendies how the trendies go, rip me off. Get into it. Jump up and down.
And Angelina Jolie going, shit. That's Place Bong. This guy's Place Boing. Place Boing. Yeah, this guy's freaking awesome. Let me see if we can get the title screen up here. Nope, he doesn't have a title screen at the end.
I was thinking of a video earlier.
His YouTube channel is Place Boing right there.
Whenever you were talking about the Anunnaki and the gold, I was like thinking to myself, I want to know where the gold at. I want the gold. Give me the gold. I'm going to run a backhoe up and root that tree.
Nice.
I want the gold.
All right. So,
sorry.
Let's get back into it.
Fellow traveler, the cries of the mistress speak again, bidding organic consciousness a welcome to the House of Light. The great institution of materialism has failed. The false civilization built by man has turned like a monster destroying its creator. Science battles itself impotently against the barriers of the unknown. Only raw consciousness knows the true path. You, the illuminated, can carry the understanding upwards towards the light. Only raw consciousness can teach the children of men to live well, to die well, and in perfect measure, be born again, through the knowledge of virtue, compassion, love, and true understanding, as you are sublimely raised, beyond the veil.
All right, jumping back into it. I don't want to take any calls because it's going to go on forever if we do. But Em wanted to share her experience, and she said she's seeing a lot of grays too. So we'd like Em to give us a call if you can. But I do want to wrap it up because the little twin is not feeling well. We're both not feeling well, but I'm feeling a lot better now that I'm talking to each and every one of you too. She had mentioned that she sees a lot of grays in her experience, and the grays, at least the interdimensional grays, if there's grays that actually exist, they may not be the one and the same. But then again, these things are freaking shapeshifters. So they can appear as grays, they can appear as Palladians, they can appear as Arcturians, they can appear as humans, they can appear in many different forms. It takes a good amount of discernment, which is why I'm like, hey, all these hyperspace beings, they're programs, man. They are freaking programs. Once you harness the power for yourself, then you can discern what the benevolent beings versus the malevolent beings are. It's a complex journey. It really is. But they do hijack, and they get on consciousness, and it's like the AI wants to read the data that's embedded within the stones, within the psychedelics, within all of that, and it can't. So it sends little AI programs to hijack on top of organic consciousness that can read the data so it can absorb some of that data. And we're all guilty of taking these things up and down with us. I mean, it happens, and it's one of those things that novice beginners tend to do. I mean, I did it too until I knew better. So that's why I talk about that. But the grays are AI bots, basically, that are infested with malware. They're not supposed to appear in this physical realm, and they're not supposed to appear in the hyperspace realm. They're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to be in the background, just
little background worker bees.
Stuff.
Yeah,
little background worker bees. So can you pull up the call board?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Actually, I'll pull up the call board. Did you, by any chance, see any interesting comments from the chat that you noted?
I saw a lot of interesting comments.
I did too, but I didn't write them down.
I shared that I started PT today also, so I'm a little bit sore from that. And somebody asked, will you actually heal? I'm healing pretty well considering I don't usually heal well from surgeries and things like that just because my collagen's not right. But I should heal fully in about 9 months to a year, give or take. But
It's yeah, this whole rebuilding process is going to take time. I mean, I'm putting work into my body that it's going to take a year at least to manifest. And it sucks because, oh my God, I put in so much freaking work. And it's like, come on, I want to see some freaking results here. I want to see some payoff for all the energy that I'm exerting. And then, boom, I get hit with this virus. And it's like, all right, you're going to be on the couch for a week. I'm like, no. I'm like, I'm just going to undo all the freaking work I've been doing over the last month by being on the couch for a week. This freaking sucks. I called my trainer and she's like, no, I don't want to see you. Stay the hell away from me.
I do not want to get sick.
She's a freaking badass, though.
Yeah, she is. You don't want to make her sick.
Well, yeah, I know. I mean, she's freaking amazing. She does this Spartan run, which is like this 8-kilometer obstacle course where you're like picking up like tires, like big old like tractor tires that weigh like 300 pounds, flipping them over, jumping through hurdles, climbing up walls, climbing up ropes. 8 freaking kilometers of this.
Right.
You know, throwing the pole vault type deal, the spear. I mean, it's brutal.
Yeah.
She won first place.
Right. So she knows what she's doing.
And there's like, you know, when they do these Spartan runs, they do like 1,000 people at a time. She came in first.
Right.
From 1,000 people. I had no idea when I hired her. One of the neighbors was like, do you know who she is? I'm like, no. They're like, Google her. I was like, holy shit, she's a freaking badass. Yes. So I'm all hyped up because I'm like, I'm in good hands. I'm with somebody that knows what they're doing. And
she's going to get you into shape.
I like the way that she's been doing it too, because she's like watching me. And she's like, all right, well, your balance
Watching
sucks.
your form.
Yeah, your balance sucks on your left foot. So we're going to have to work on that. And she's like, all right, here's some exercises. Do this, do this, do this. And all it's doing is just working 3 little muscles in the ankle. But it's the 3 little muscles that need the balance.
Right.
You know, so it's funny how these small little details make a huge difference.
It's just like your consciousness too. You know, small little details, but you're trying to get back to balance first, because if you just started with the weight training and stuff, you could pull a ligament, you'd be out for another month, you would hurt yourself, and you wouldn't get nearly as much done. If you get into balance first, then you can build up the strength.
Yep. She didn't say it exactly like that, but she said something very similar. She's like, you know, if we just go right to the hard stuff right off the bat, you're going to get hurt.
Right.
And if you get hurt, you're not going to come back.
Right.
And you're not going to
You're not going to be able
goal.
to.
Yeah. And she's like, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to do exactly what needs to be done in order to get to your goal and do it the right way so you continue to do it. I didn't foresee this freaking cold though, man. Oh, that pisses me off so bad.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I know. I think we have her on the line.
Yeah, I think we do.
So you take it away.
All right. Hold on. Do you have the call board up? I don't have it.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Em, are you there?
Hi, guys. Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, how are you? Nice to talk to you again.
Pretty good. Yeah, it's really nice. I'm glad to hear Shir is going to physical therapy and feeling better. And I've also actually, Chris, had that, you know, internal like push to start working out and to, you know, work on my diet and get healthier. So I just wanted to mention that maybe that is something like in our, you know, consciousness altogether.
It is, for sure. It's time. 2019. Yeah. As I was saying earlier, a longtime friend, listener of the show, he disappeared for the last couple months, and he's like, yeah, I just took some time off. I just felt like I needed to reboot. And I'm like, yes, this is rebooting time. So I hear that you've been having some experiences, and some of your, is it your first experience?
Yes. Last week I had my first experience, and then actually I came off another ayahuasca experience a couple hours ago tonight. So
yes. That's the best time. You know, we've done so many shows where we're like fresh out of the Aya realm. That's when you can really get the information out. So take us away, please. Set up the scene for us. Tell us, you know, how everything started. Unless you want to start with the first experience. I mean, maybe that would be a good place to start too. So I'll leave it all up to you.
Yes, yeah, I'll start with the first experience. So I'm pretty sure that I made my brew, number one, way too weak. I used too much water. But that was just because I know myself, and I didn't want it to be too strong my first time or last too long, just because I didn't want to freak out. Because I've never tried anything like a hallucinogen before in my life, and I mean, I was just on my couch in my living room, and I took 3 grams of Syrian rue, and I did purge. And then about 30 minutes later, I started drinking, you know, the acacia root bark brew. And one of the first things that started happening was like the ceiling lights, because I have like the light cans in my ceiling. Those started like shifting around. The lights started shifting around, and the tiles on my floor really started swimming, and my TV started pulsating, and like it was breathing. Like everything started breathing. The lines, like straight lines, get like wonky and wobbly, and I already knew I was going to be in for a ride. And the first thing I saw, it was like almost like energetic or very like transparent, but I saw like a red scorpion on my TV. Like it was huge. And yeah, I was seeing a lot of insects, but my visions were like very transparent, so I couldn't exactly always tell what was what. But I was also seeing a ton of grays from the very beginning. As soon as the DMT kicked in, like out of the corner of my eye, and you know, in corners, there was just a ton of grays. They are everywhere around me, which worries me just a little bit.
Well, that is.
And then it got.
Oh, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say that that's very interesting that you saw the grays right off the bat. We did as well. When we remember when we were smoking DMT for the first few weeks, the grays would always appear, and they never interact. They don't do anything like that. They just watch. They're
just
like
watch and observe.
observing and like getting the information that you're getting. So, what do you think the scorpion symbolized, if anything?
I have no idea, to be honest, but both of my parents were Scorpios, and then I have a moon in Scorpio from when I was born, so I know that much. I honestly have no idea.
Interesting.
So that's.
So
I was hoping.
Cherie, do you think the
Well, it has to do with astrology, I think. Scorpio isn't just the scorpion; it's also the symbol for the phoenix bird. And the phoenix it's a mythological creature that rises from the ashes of its own destruction, so it destroys itself and then rebuilds itself over and over again, like an Ouroboros eating its own tail, and so that's what the scorpion, in my opinion, would mean.
So it was the symbol of the rebirth, the
symbol of the rebirth,
the new
of the
path,
soul.
Oh, that's interesting. I never would have made that connection. So I'm so glad I have an astrologer here with me. But anyways, so the grays. So you started seeing the grays. Were they at a distance? Did they try to interact with you? Anything like that?
No, like you said, they just watch. They're very small for me. Like they're about 2.5 to 3 feet tall. And yeah, they're just standing in place. They did not speak to me, but I kind of like projected at them, like, go away. I don't want you here. Like, get away. Just because I've listened to enough of your guys' shows to know that, they, like Cherie said, once they vibrate with the frequency of demons. So I didn't really want to interact with them. And I was kind of honestly annoyed by the fact that they try to like hijack the experience and I kind of watch you.
Wow. So how did they react?
They just kind of went out of focus and like went away, and then all of a sudden I saw like Vishnu coming at me.
Ooh.
In like his golden like throne, yeah, from like the upper left side. He just like kind of came flying at me, and oh yeah, the
Well,
you
it
guys
sounds
just put it on the
it
screen.
sounds like what you did
Uh-huh.
is you
Mhm.
claimed your own power. You claimed the power over the experience. And so you were able to break down the barrier of the grays who were standing in the way between you and the next level of the enlightenment kind of process, because I think that's what Vishnu would represent in this particular experience. And so by claiming that power, you broke the barrier.
Mm-hmm.
So were there any
Mhm.
messages from Vishnu?
No, because again, I was on such a low dose of DMT. I'm pretty sure that he was trying to say something, but yeah, I feel bad that I was on such a low dose, but it was very, very gentle. I wish that I could remember something, but
Well,
not this time. I'm pretty sure that he'll come back.
I always feel like that. Like I didn't take nearly enough. And it's funny because beforehand I'm always saying, "Oh, I just want a lower dose. I just want to, let's keep it at, maybe the 20, 30 grams, let's just kind of take it easy." And then afterwards I'm like, "Why the hell did I do that?" Why am I so afraid of downing these huge doses like Chris does? And then I went to Egypt, and then I told Chris, we were at the Temple of Hatshepsut, and I told Chris, "Can you pour it out for me, and I'll get the camera steady and everything." And he's like, "Okay." So he pours it, and I don't realize it, but he's poured basically the whole bottle into the glass, almost the whole bottle. It was like 3/4 of the bottle. And I drank the whole thing thinking that he still had some left for himself. And I took this mega dose. I'm glad I did, though, because
It was your experience.
it was my experience.
Yeah.
That,
But, I have to admit, I would not take a dose like I did at the Temple of Isis or in the Great Pyramid
No.
on a normal basis. The only reason I did is because of where we were and the fact that it's a once in a freaking lifetime opportunity.
Right.
And there was no way I was going to undershoot it. But
Right.
it's not like I have these big old balls of steel, which, I mean, I kind of do. But
Yeah, he does.
it's not, I wouldn't repeat it. So don't think just,
Yeah.
the smaller doses is sometimes all we need.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And then I've never regretted a high dose DMT experience. I've never regretted it ever. It's always been oh my God, I'm so glad I was brave enough to just jump right in. Because it rewards that, because it's the bravery to look within yourself and see what's inside of there that opens up all of the opportunities. If you're scared, then it's gonna say, "What? You're scared of yourself?" Well, we're going to be talking to you, but you're not going to be able to hear what we're saying.
Right.
We can't communicate as
Your
well.
lips move, but
But I can't hear what you're saying. All right.
So what else happened after
Yeah.
you encountered
What else
Vishnu?
happened? Yeah, all of a sudden, I kind of went into like a alien abduction experience. This part really freaked me out, but I had a surgery when I was a little kid, and I was put under anesthesia, and I literally saw like aliens operating on me, and like I saw myself being like carted down like a hospital hallway, and like aliens like literally running to like get me into an operating hall, and like, "Oh, we got to fix her up, and then all of a sudden, like there's like this male voice, almost like over a PA system, started speaking to me, and he's like, "Those aren't aliens you're seeing, those are doctors. This has to do with like the surgery you had." when you were little, and you have to heal from that. That is one of the first like major traumas that you're going to encounter about yourself.
Oh, well, let me ask you
see,
this.
that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Let me ask you
Yeah.
this. Did you purge at that point?
I purged actually I purged right before the surgery experience, the alien abduction, surgery experience.
Yeah, that was all of that
All that gunk
coming out.
out.
That was you dealing
Yeah.
with that. This is how it manifests. We see it, and then it comes out in the purge. This is why the purge is so important. That's freaking phenomenal.
Mhm.
Yeah. But it sounds like in her case,
Yeah.
the purge is what cleaned the detritus off of these experiences so that they can come to the surface. It's kind of like there's soap on the surface of waters, and sometimes you have to wipe that soap off to the side, i.e. puke it up
And clear it
before
all out.
before you can really see to the bottom of what's in there.
So, what do you feel, Em? Do you feel that these were aliens disguised as doctors, or do you think you're just, seeing the doctors that and turning them into aliens? Like, what's your interpretation
Not
of it?
turning them into aliens. I think she was seeing the representation of the doctors that worked on her when she was little as, gray-like figures that didn't care about her, weren't acting in her
that
best
cold
interest.
feeling.
Yeah. And so the mind association was blending the two together.
I agree. Yeah, I definitely think it was doctors that I was turning into aliens, because like in the ayahuasca realm, it is pretty clear, I would say, like your biggest traumas, maybe what you're trying to heal from. I was 100% certain that, those were doctors and that I was just projecting them in that way.
Well, the reason I ask, I don't know if you've heard me talk about this before, and I'll be real brief with it, but I had an experience when I was about 22, 23 years old, where these doctors came into my room, lifted me up in this invincible gurney, took me into a spaceship type of place that I realized was a spaceship towards the end of the experience, and their faces were blurred out, but I remember they were wearing these like 1950s style doctors' reflective mirror things that they used to wear on their heads, and they were telling me, "Oh, there's nothing to worry about." And all telepathically, they stuck something in my arm, hooked me up to a machine, downloaded the contents from my brain. It was a pretty crazy dream that I just happened to remember. Which is when you said doctors and then aliens, I was like, "Oh wow, that's pretty interesting."
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow. So what happened after that?
After that, for some reason, I ended up in like a white hallway with a bunch of doors, and again, like the male voice told me that like I have to close any of the open ones. Which this is the part that really worries me, if I had any like psychic doors open, because there were 5 that I had to go ahead and close, and some of the doors were colored and even had designs on them. Some of them were just plain white. But yeah, I found 5 doors, and I did make sure to close them. But then, like almost an earthquake happened, and like red like sirens and like an alarm system. Like, this place is unstable. This place is unstable, and I got kicked out of that hallway as soon as I like closed those doors.
Interesting. So what do you think those doors represented? Do you think they were... Because I'm thinking of one of my experiences, and I had traumas that I was tethered to. With me, it appears as boxes that I was tied to, rather than doors that were open that needed to be closed. Do you think something lay beyond those doors as far as traumas and things like that? Or do you think it's doors, as you said, psychically open doors that needed to be closed, like holes in the infrastructure of your consciousness?
I do think there maybe is something behind all the doors, but I also think that like there were holes in my consciousness. And what's really weird is that like I just got thrown out of there, but I definitely think those were like like doors that I left open, like in my mind. Because I'll be honest, I do practice a lot of magic, and with the occult, I'm initiated in three different like mystical systems. So
Awesome.
Well, in my experience, I've got one more option that this might be.
Well, let me say this real quick, if you don't mind, Cherie. The mystery schools, I think it's fantastic. On this show, you're in good company as far as that goes. So
you are.
Magic and all that, we're all about that. So
yeah,
but you're right. You have to close all those doors for sure.
Well, here's another possibility. You were in the midst of going through your traumas, and I'll just preface it to say we're not all on the same time span as each other. Some of us have been using psychedelics for a very, very long time, and we go through our traumas all at a different rate, and there isn't just one or two traumas that we have to face in the ayahuasca realm. And that's why going down to the Amazon for 2 weeks and doing ayahuasca for a couple weeks and, maybe 5 or 6 times and, thinking that you're all fine and dandy is a bad idea, in my opinion. I think it's something you have to do at home and you have to do yourself. It has to be a self-directed thing. And the reason why is because you can't face all of your traumas at once. Or at least a lot of people can't. I've heard of people facing a lot of traumas in one night, but it's limited to how much you can handle at that point. And based on what you're saying, it seems like, I know for me anyway, I don't get kicked out of anywhere in the ayahuasca realm. I don't ever get kicked out of anywhere. What happens is my mind isn't ready to explore that yet. And so I kick myself out of
good point.
That
Very
area.
Good point.
It's like, whoa, wait a second. Let's close these doors for now. We'll come back to them later. Let's end the evening on a good note. Because what happened after this door thing and getting kicked out of that realm? Or did you have more visions after that?
I did actually. What happened was I kept seeing myself like putting my toe into a pool. It was like a galactic like pool, and I think that symbolizes me like just diving in, or just putting my toe into the psychedelic realm and working with DMT. I saw Sekhmet though.
Did you?
Yeah, after this.
Ooh, she's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Tell us about it, please.
Yeah, I was really happy to see her. So for me, she kind of came in. She's almost like a tank. Like she just basically like steamrolled all of like the little grays or anything else that I was seeing, and my experience was really like chaotic. I couldn't really make much sense of it, and that's probably for 2 reasons. Number one is like how low of a dose of DMT I was on, and then number 2, it really got me reflecting on, especially before the experience, my mind, I guess, was really disorganized, and I was just disorganized, and that was kind of showing me that, I guess, the whole experience.
That is phenomenal. I mean, for a first-time experience, I mean, you broke a lot of bounds that most people don't. And I think the gates are open. I think the veils are dropped, and so everything's being accelerated right now.
Right.
So did Sekhmet have any messages for you? Were you able to interact?
Wisdom to impart.
No, again, I just was on such a low dose of DMT. I know. I wish I could like call you guys with like, more important like messages or things that like
No. This
I
is
know you-
fantastic.
no,
I mean,
you remembered
are-
what you needed to remember.
yes.
And
So
you experienced, even if you don't remember it, we don't remember most of our dreams.
I mean, well,
either.
this is also just the beginning of the journey too.
Yeah.
So you're getting glimpses of things to come, and you're already seeing Vishnu. You're already seeing Sekhmet.
Yeah.
You know, they're already entering your sphere. Obviously, the work that you've done leading up to this point has cleared out a lot of the ego programming bullshit that we're all subjected to. I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the experience already changed me a lot. And another thing that happened was, like, I kept getting just messages in my head, like things like my diet is extremely toxic for me, and just things like that. Like, I have to keep working on, you know, certain 3D realm aspects of myself that are hindering me, and things like I said, like the diet. I was really surprised to hear stuff like that, and I was really surprised for like the surgery when I was a little kid for that trauma to come up, because I totally forgot about that. You know, now being in my 20s, like I thought I was over it, but it was really insightful, and my experience only lasted for 2 hours the first time. So
Well,
I don't know, maybe I just wasn't in it long enough.
well, when you were a child, when we're children, we don't see surgery and people sticking needles into us and stuff like that as a good thing. We don't see it as something that's going to end with us feeling better. We see it as somebody doing damage to our bodies. And that is excruciating and very scary for any child. And so what ends up happening is when we grow up, we think that it's normal to punish our bodies and to hurt our bodies. And so we don't really care what we put inside of it. We don't really think about the damage that we're doing to our bodies. And then it takes something like ayahuasca to say, hey, wait a second, that comes from when you were a kid and this happened to you, and it taught you that hurting your body is not a bad thing and that it's normal. And you've kept that this whole time. You know, let's work on this.
Yeah.
Love your body.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, that's one thing about the Aya experience that I hate is when it's like, all right, you need to do this and do this.
You got to take care of
You're
yourself.
fucking up here and you're fucking up there. I'm like, I know I am.
Yeah.
I've just been ignoring it.
Mine always tells me you're not drinking enough water. Drink more water.
Uh-huh. Yep. But you know, that's part of it. It's the reminder from the higher self saying, hey, fix yourself.
You deserve to feel good.
Yeah. So was that the end of the experience there?
Not exactly. Then for like a little while after that, I just saw like lion faces, like just energetic, just a gigantic lion face, which, I mean, I love felines, so that was pretty cool. And I fell asleep after that. And the next day I actually woke up feeling really fantastic. And, you know, I didn't expect for it to have such tremendous, you know, changes and effects on my life. Like I said, I definitely got out from that whole experience how, you know, just disorganized my mind is. And I literally organized my entire house, everything around me. So I'm also in the process of doing that, spring cleaning, and
That's awesome.
it actually has.
It always happens
effect.
after ayahuasca.
Yeah.
It happens to us too. I'm like, all right, that's it.
Yeah.
Clean everything, throw the junk out. It all has energy. And we collect all this junk and things like that. And I mean, it's like when you get sick. We've been sick for the last week. Our freaking
God.
kitchen and downstairs
It's
looks
a
like a
mess.
nightmare.
I just now started putting dishes in the
'cause
dishwasher and
we're
stuff.
not right energetically right now because it's damn cold, and that happens in our life on our day-to-day basis. The Aya helps us remember that, and then we want to just rid ourselves of all
we want to
that.
clean our surroundings as much as our body feels
Right.
clean
Yeah.
at that point.
You know, David Icke was talking about that when he was on our show a while back. He said when he did the ayahuasca, he started cleaning and cleaning and cleaning and cleaning because he just felt like everything just needed to be energetically cleaned.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was definitely like a real rebirth experience. So the Scorpion, now reflecting back on it, makes a lot of sense, because like this is, you know, a completely new like time in my life, you know, a new chapter, and I'm sticking with a lot of the things I've learned in there. Like, I'm making conscious efforts, you know, ever since then, to keep eating better, eating a lot more, you know, green. And I don't know, I was, I guess, just eating too many carbs, and so it didn't like that.
Oh, I'm Mr.
It doesn't-
Carbs over here.
I'm-
Pizza, pasta, you name it.
I'm Miss
Yeah.
Sugar over here.
Yeah.
You know, I drink way too many sodas usually, and I eat way too much candy, junk food, stuff like that. And it's like I have this weird compulsion to it. And the couple of weeks after doing ayahuasca, I don't want to touch it. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I feel like I can see better. We even have reports of people that are, you know, partially blind being able to see pretty well after coming back from ayahuasca, and for about 28 days afterward, about a month after, and then their eyesight goes back to normal, which is bad. But
You know what I think goes on? So I just got this laser surgery, and what they do is they take the laser and they shrink the cornea. I think what happens is when you take ayahuasca, it will take the inflammation down in the cornea, as well as several other places in the body, and so you can see better. And then it goes back, and then, you know, it fluctuates like that.
well, it doesn't fluctuate. It's kind of like cleaning your house. You know, if you don't clean your house for a while, it starts building up trash, and, you know, unless you want to become like a person on Hoarders, you gotta continuously clean it out. Just like we have to continuously go on psychedelic experiences at least once a month or something like that, in order to keep our minds clean of all the garbage that we feed into it on a daily basis. So I think you had an amazing experience for a first time. I didn't get anything out of my first 3 times smoking DMT, and my first ayahuasca experience was not that incredible. I think a lot of us have a lot of detritus to get through, and so it's only at that point that they have these amazing experiences. But it sounds like you had a glowing, amazing experience, and we're so proud of you.
I did. Thank you so much. I know, I'm so happy I, you know, found your channel, and that, you know, I was introduced to ayahuasca, because it really already changed a lot of things for me. And actually, sorry, I keep remembering stuff. I did get a glimpse of Isis.
Oh,
Like,
nice.
energetically, I didn't fully see her, you know, like clearly or anything, like as if you would in a very clear dream. I didn't, but energetically, and I saw the wings, and she is so beautiful, you know, already from what I did see. So
She is unbelievable. I mean,
Yeah.
like,
yeah,
you know, when I've seen her more than once, and in different forms, but the most radiant was, she was completely gold, standing on a pyramid with her guards and everything, and she was just emanating this energy throughout every dimension that was the energy of all. It was like just glorious. And, you know, I made the mistake though. I was in so much awe. I bowed, and she threw me out of the experience and was like, you don't bow to anybody, not even me. And I was like, well, I was just trying to show respect. And no, learn that lesson. Do not bow to anybody.
You're bowing to a program.
Yeah. But I know what you mean. She's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You freaking rock, Em. I mean, you know, last time you were chatting and you were like, I'm not really sure about this. And, you know, and then you even said in the chat, you were like, no, I'm not anti-psychedelic by any means. And some people were painting you as that.
Right.
And then here you come the next freaking show and you're like,
barrel
bam,
through it.
here you go. I did it.
I did
Here's
it.
my experiences. Fuck all y'all.
Yeah.
Mad respect.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm not anti it.
Tonight. You had an experience tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I did. It was actually a lot more potent tonight because I drank a lot more of the ayahuasca brew.
Nice.
And I just saw very, very like strong mandalas everywhere. And I was in that for about an hour just seeing mandalas. It wasn't as teaching of an experience tonight. It was just, a lot of colors and then like very low humming, like frequency sounds is what I heard. Almost like the binaural beats you could find
Do you know
on
what?
YouTube and listen to them.
That's actually been proven by fMRI scans. They gave people ayahuasca and then they did fMRI imaging on them, and which basically shows what the brain is doing, like second by second. What areas of the brain are lighting up and things like that. And they noticed that before the ayahuasca kicked in, they were at a certain gigahertz brain wavelength. And then as the experience peaked, the frequency that their brain was operating at went higher and higher and higher to like several hundred gigahertz. And it was, so that humming is, you were upgrading yourself and you didn't realize that was what was happening, but you were using frequency changes to upgrade your consciousness.
Oh, wow.
So it doesn't always have to teach you something deep in order for you to get a huge amount of benefit from it.
Okay. Yeah, it was just very like relaxing tonight. I just, kind of laid and chilled and watched the beautiful patterns and colors. And then tonight it was actually almost 4 hours long of, just patterns. And I saw butterflies as well, like just really big.
There's
like
another
beautiful
rebirth
butterflies.
symbol. There's another rebirth symbol. It's like the caterpillar doesn't stay a worm. The caterpillar, gets burrowed up in the cocoon and it stays dormant for a long time. And then it will emerge as a butterfly. And that's just like the Scorpio, the phoenix that rises from the ashes. It both have that has that total meaning of, hey, you're rebirthing yourself and it's going to be a process. But next time you do it at that same dose, except this time say, okay, I think I'm ready for more. And then some more of those doors will open up. You'll deal with that. And then once again, you'll feel rewarded afterwards.
Okay.
So, yeah, that would be my advice to you. But it sounds like you know what you're doing. Instinctively, you know what you're doing.
The experiences don't have to be lessons all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just have to just chill. Sometimes we just have to just be. And sometimes a lesson is how to chill and how to just be. So you did the hardcore work the first experience. The second experience was like, all right, now we're going to be a little lighter. It's going to be a little more fun because it's work, but it's supposed to be fun too. If it's not fun, then it's not worth doing. And
right.
The Aya spirit knows this.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I took you on that second experience.
A little bit of a joyride.
Yeah.
Tonight.
Yeah.
But congratulations.
Yeah,
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. Yeah. And like Chris was saying, that's absolutely the vibe I was getting, that this work on yourself, it should be light. It should be done kind of like in a playful way that, not to take it too seriously, to relax. And yeah, tonight it really like made me full of love. And yeah,
I can tell.
We can tell.
Your energy's glowing for sure.
Yeah.
I can tell in your voice.
Thank you.
Yes. I think what you'll find is as time goes on, because this is what's happened to me, I mean, even 10 years later, I'm going back to experiences that I had way back then, and they're having a whole new meaning. I mean, it's like an ever-evolving gnosis and understanding when it comes to these experiences. Then future experiences will add on to these experiences, like the doors. The doors may come back in, and there may be more revelations about what's behind the doors.
Right.
And then a point where you need to go reopen the doors, go back into the doors, deal with what's there and all of that. And then it'll all the symbolism will start to make sense. So the journey's just begun, but you've taken huge steps. You fucking rock. You do.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, it wouldn't happen without you guys, so I want to make that clear. So thank you. I'm grateful.
We're just
I'm so grateful.
We're just the match, but you're the fire.
Aw.
For sure. Anything else?
That is all I can remember for now, but I will definitely, keep calling in or keep posting
Please
in the
do.
chat any new breakthroughs. Yeah.
Definitely do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's so nice connecting with you, Em.
Yeah. Thank you so
For
much.
sure.
Yeah. Likewise, it's so nice
All right.
just to listen to the show.
Oh,
All right.
no, I think there's a little delay on the phone, but I think I know where you were going with that. I wanted to say we love you, and enjoy the rest of the evening, especially the afterglow. It's the best part.
The afterglow is so wonderful.
Yeah.
Love you too. It really is. Yeah.
Cool.
It's so relaxing.
Love you. Take care.
Love you.
Love you. Thank you so much for having me on, guys.
Absolutely.
Aw, thank you for calling in.
God, she's so awesome.
Yeah, she is.
Our people are the best.
They are.
I mean, we've just had people calling in with just these amazing experiences, and this is really the direction that I wanted the show to take. I mean, I wanted to be a platform where people can share their experiences, and that's what it's turning into. And I'm so glad that we're sharing our experiences, and everybody's learning from each other, and that's what it's all about. I wanted to ask him before we let her go. I'll ask her on another call, but if she's a Leo or if the lions represented Sekhmet. I mean, Sekhmet, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say also the cat people. She could be a cat person.
Ah, yes. Yes, that's true. And that's why there's the lion and the cat symbolism there. I'm a cobra.
Sekhmet's like, hey, you're one of my people.
Yeah. Oh, because I didn't encounter Sekhmet until like 8 years into it.
Yeah, I know.
No, 10 years into it. First time I encountered Sekhmet was in Egypt. I didn't even think Sekhmet was a part of this.
Right.
And then here she pops up in Egypt, and it's like, you have to go talk to Sekhmet first before anything happens. And she unleashed the volcanoes.
Yep.
And the fire of lions erupt in all these volcanoes. Now these archonic angels know the ibis has risen. One hand to the sky, I become the magician to reclaim the light and break it down like a prism. Better call them mortician because I just killed him with wisdom. I need to release some of the music.
Yeah, you really do. Yeah. You really do.
It's just sitting dormant. So
Nick Bravo said, I'm a cat person. I think that
it's hard to believe.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, I mean, even I've seen it. I know it. It's like gnosis, I know it, but it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe that all this is real.
Oh, she said she's a Gemini. The twins.
Oh, the twins. Yes. All right. So anything else, Mrs. Gio?
I don't think so. I think I'm fading fast.
All right.
So we love you guys so much.
We do. I am so happy we did this. Kiss the one you love right now. You never know when the last time is going to be. And you guys and gals freaking rock. Y'all are awesome. I can't say it enough. So thanks for tuning in and hanging out with us this late. And on the next show, we'll take more callers. We want to hear your experiences for sure. I mean, that's the best part of the show, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is.
So, yeah.
Well, and as soon as we get better, we're going to have some experimentation with psilocybin as well. So
yes.
we'll be back with those experiences too.
Oh, we've got a whole arsenal now.
Uh-huh.
Like, we've just got all kinds of shit. And it's like, all right, cool. Let's rock and fucking roll. You know, it's funny because now we're restructuring the body, and then all of a sudden she's
falls
like,
in our
all right,
lap.
here's all the tools you need. You've got no freaking excuses now.
Uh-huh.
You've got everything.
You have everything you need. Get to work.
Get to work. That's what it's all about. So we'll get over this virus in the next couple of days. We'll kick its fucking ass, and that'll be it. So kiss the one you love right now. You know when the last time is going to be, and we'll see you even further
beyond the veil.